All right, we are live. Welcome. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Courtney, for being here. Today, I discovered it's International Day of Happiness. So, might be kind of fun to talk a little bit about that. What brings us happiness? What makes you happiness? Let me know what brings you happiness in the chat. I would love to know. Obviously, for me, Freemasonry brings me happiness. Grand Compass Promotions brings me happiness. Professional wrestling brings me happiness. There's lots of things that kind of bring me happiness. I also thought, again, I want to talk about this yesterday, but I didn't get around to doing so. Maybe talking about symbolism in the television show Lost, which is the show I love from 2005, and how it connects to Freemasonry, because there's also we've talked about this on Medium channel before. A lot of times television shows will include or have symbolism to which you can draw parallels with Freemasonry. That doesn't mean necessarily that the creators of the show themselves were Freemasons or had Freemasonry in mind, but rather that there are parallels that you can draw between these things. And I also discovered a very interesting little piece of fact or trivia about the restaurant business, which I thought could actually apply to Freemasonry and something we need to think about. So that's just a couple of different ideas that I had. Also trending on X, I have no idea why, is nasty Canadian, hashtag nasty Canadian. I don't know what that means, but I'm kind of curious now. Maybe I'll look into that. But welcome, drinking coffee and wonderful fellowship. That's what makes you happy, Courtney. Nothing's wrong with that because I love coffee and I love fellowship. Dad is on the channel as well. Dad, who I'll be seeing soon in a couple of days. So I hope, Dad, that you are doing well also. Let me know how everybody is doing. I wonder if international happiness was referenced by any Freemasons. We got my dad here, though. I hope he is doing well. Everybody, if you could take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know how it is you're doing. Like I say, the usual first hour or so, 30 minutes to an hour, we spend just hanging out, waiting for people to join. And then once we hit the 45 to an hour, that's when we start talking about our specific topics. Today, figure talking about the International Day of Happiness, just for fun, and what brings us happiness and how maybe Freemasons can be involved in International Day of Happiness. Wanted to talk again about Lost, the TV show, a little bit, and a few other things here and there. So could be fun and worth talking about. But as always, anything you guys want to chat about, I hope that you will do so as well. That's the best part, is taking questions. I can't promise you I'll be able to answer every question, especially if I get a lot of people joining. and I might not even know. In some cases, I might learn something myself. Yesterday I learned about Scottish Rite degrees, which I did not know. I knew the first 3 degrees existed. I did not know, or sorry, I knew that degrees 4 through 33 existed, but I did not know the first 3 existed. So that's kind of cool. Happiness is housework to make your visit clean. Well, I can think of things that would make me happier than housework, Dad, but still, I appreciate you doing it, and I look forward to seeing you very, very soon. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to. I love traveling. It's my favorite thing in the world. So I'm finally happy I'll get back to the travel. And by the way, I am still going to keep up with my online schedule or my live streaming schedule, but it is going to be a little bit different than usual. So I'll let you guys know what the hours will be in the coming on social media. So make sure you follow me on all the social media channels so you can keep up to date with everything that with all of my live streams. And welcome. If you're just joining us, jump in the chat, say hello. As I was saying, usually speaking, the first 30 minutes to an hour, we just hang out, see who joins us and what they want to talk about, any questions or thoughts or comments, and then the 45-minute mark is when we start talking specifically about different topics. Today's topics, I thought maybe happiness, what brings you happiness, because today's International Day of Happiness, and how maybe that can improve, or how maybe Freemasons can take advantage of this day, as well as I discovered some very interesting things related to the restaurant business, but how they can apply to Freemasonry. Interestingly enough, I read a few months ago now this book called Unreasonable Hospitality, which was about the restaurant or hospitality business. And that actually dealt a lot. It was really fascinating because that dealt a lot with the restaurant business and how to create a more engaging experience where people want to return. And you're seeing that with a recent clip I saw about the restaurant business and the same idea, which again can potentially be a benefit to Freemasonry. All right. That helps a lot. My happiness is having good neighbors to look after your cat when you are away. That is 100% true. I think the former part, I think, is just as important to mention, right? My happiness is having good neighbors. My suspicion is having good neighbors is, generally speaking, an incredibly important part of happiness in general, social connections and social connectivity. And if you don't have good neighbors, hopefully you have good brothers. If you don't have good brothers, you have good family, good friends, good whatever it is that you need to have. So that makes sense to me. To enlarge the sphere of happiness is worthy and benevolent design of Masonic institutional happiness. That is 100% the case. Although, interestingly, the phrase Masonic institutional happiness, that could probably be a whole discussion in and of itself, to be honest. What is institutional happiness in a Masonic sense versus otherwise? That would be worth exploring. So, I promise you that screaming is, I just had something on the TV there for a second. Um, Rocking out the lost. Welcome. If you're just joining us, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Once again, we are going to talk today about International Day of Happiness. Maybe how Freemasonry can take advantage of some of these days. Restaurant business is a very tough endeavor to be in. Oh, I'm sure it is. I mean, I became obsessed lately with this TV show called The Bear, which is one of my favorite TV shows. I love watching it. And yeah, it kind of shows how tough it is. Unreasonable hospitality also tends to demonstrate how tough it is. So, Masonic happiness often refers to a sense of fulfillment and joy derived from the fraternity's principle of unity, brotherhood, striving for personal and social betterment. Yeah, well, that is the definition of happiness in the sense of like not just a joyful feeling that kind of passes, but rather happiness based on having specific purpose and fighting for that purpose, or having a purpose beyond oneself and striving towards those principles. Right? Because there are a lot of different ways to define happiness. Welcome if you're just joining us. Actually, that's a good question. I'm going to put that in the chat. Captain the Dog, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't done so yet, please hit that like and subscribe button. I know you've already subscribed, I do believe, but please hit the like button. Today is International Day of Happiness. So the question is, how do you define happiness? We'll talk about that while we are waiting for more people to join. Usually the first 30 minutes to 45 minutes, 30 minutes to an hour, we spend just waiting for people to join and jump in the chat. And then we talk about our specific topics at approximately the 45 to an hour mark. Today, I figured talking about International Day of Happiness, what that is and how Freemasons and Freemasonry can potentially be involved in these areas. So yeah, I think we as Freemasons could benefit a lot from paying attention to more of these kind of special days. Also, I thought it'd be a lot of fun to check out a clip that I found regarding the restaurant business, how the restaurant business attracts and maintains new customers or repeat business, and what that can mean for Freemasonry, which I think is really important. But I usually spend, like I said, up to 45 minutes or so waiting for people to join because it can take a little while. So just going to wait for some people to jump on and say hello, and then we'll start on our topic today. But thank you so much for joining us. And please hit that like button. Captain the Dog, temporary, because would you rather be happy or content? That's a good question, right? I'm curious actually what the different definitions between the two things would be. So the definition of content is well, this is interesting because when I type content definition, adjective pops up, in a state of peaceful happiness. But then when I looked up happiness definition, the state of being happy, which is not the most helpful thing in the world. Happy, feeling or showing pleasure or contentment. So interestingly enough, you kind of get these circular definitions where happy is defined as the feeling of contentment, and contentment or content is defined as the feeling of being happy, which does not help anybody at all, to be perfectly honest. But I understand what you're saying. Happiness, oftentimes when people refer to happiness, they mean more intense emotions, but lasting for a shorter duration, whereas contentment is a longer lasting emotion, but is not as intense feeling. Really, England was 23rd on the list. I was told that the beauty of English women and the tastiness of English food is the reason English men became such excellent sailors. And as you are a sailor, Dad, and who knows, I married a Canadian girl, maybe there's some truth to that. But 23rd ain't so bad. Let me see what the list is. I wonder where Canada falls. Happiest countries in the world. Finland remained the happiest nation for the 8th year in a row, while Mexico and Costa Rica ranked among the top 10 for the first time since the report was first published. 2025. Let's see. US is at 24. So 23. Interesting. One factor highlighted in the report in terms of what makes people unhappy is increasing number of people who eat alone. In 2023, roughly 1 in 4 kids reported eating all of their meals alone in the previous day, increase of 53% since 2003. Dining alone has become more prevalent for every group, but especially for young people. Data reviewed for the report indicates major differences in the rates of meal sharing around the world, with sharing meals having a positive effect on well-being. As everybody may know, or some people may know, Freemasonry prides itself on sharing of meals. So with that in mind, it might be worth noting that maybe that is one of the ways Freemasonry can improve people's happiness is by allowing them to share meals with one another or with their brothers, or not take their meals alone, especially if you're older and more isolated in general. But I hope everybody is doing well. Please hit the like button and subscribe button. Give another 30 minutes or so, at least 30 minutes or so, before we start on today's main topic, which is going to be International Day of Happiness. Make happiness a habit and you'll be a happy Mason. You'll also just be a happy person, hopefully, but I agree with that completely, Courtney. Okay, list of top 20 happiest nations. Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, Netherlands, Costa Rica, Norway, Israel, Luxembourg. Interesting, Israel's 8. 9 Luxembourg, 10 Mexico, 11 Australia, 12 New Zealand, 13 Switzerland, 14 Belgium, 15 Ireland, 16 Lithuania, 17 Australia, 18 is Canada, 19 is Slovenia, 20 is Czech. So we're ahead of America. We made the top 20 here in Canada. America is 24th in the world. And welcome if you're just joining us. As always, please hit that like and subscribe button. Hope that you are doing well. Let me know how it is that you guys are doing, though. And as always, oops. As I said, usually 30 to 45 minutes in, we'll start talking about International Day of Happiness, which is our main topic for today. I still do plan to talk about loss. Don't worry. It's on my list of things I want to talk about. So, because it's a TV show I love, and there are some really cool connections that I think are parallels between symbolism in Lost and Masonic symbolism. That's not to say the producers of Lost were themselves Masons or anything like that, but rather that some of these symbols and symbolic ideas are universal, and it's worth exploring. Happiness can be brought on by drugs, but if your rent isn't paid, you'll not be content on the street nor happy. That is true. Well, I mean, happiness can be brought on by a lot of different things. I mean, if you're living on the streets, you may use drugs to give you a feeling of happiness short term as a way to take your mind off of being on the streets, basically, right? Like drugs can be used as a way to kind of force yourself to think about things outside of, whatever may be challenging you or struggling you may be struggling with. Um, Hopefully, though, there's a way that you can find those feelings of happiness without drugs. And yeah, if you have, if you have any stressors, like there is a point where no matter what's going on in your life, you're just not going to be happy. If you're in a situation where you can't afford your rent for whatever reason, then probably very little is going to make you happy or content, at least long term. Freemasonry, no different, right? Freemasonry is not going to make you happy if you're potentially facing eviction, but hopefully, what Freemasonry can do is provide you with brothers or benevolence or support to get you through those rough times, to keep you in your place so you can find happiness once again. Um, Brad, and it is great to have Brad back. Thank you so much. It is truly appreciated to have you here, especially um, since you provided me with some information I did not know yesterday regarding the degrees of Scottish Rite and the fact that Scottish Rite has its own unique first 3 degrees, um, which I guess were derived. Obviously, Scottish Rite is not Scottish. People think that it's a myth. It's actually French in origin. So I guess the degrees themselves, the first 2 degrees, were derived from French ritual. But yeah, that made me happy. Learning something new about Freemasonry makes me happy as well. So when would be the Ostera, right? Because that's the spring equinox, right? Would that be, when is the first day of spring? Is it today? When is Ostera 2025? Oh, it is today. Okay, Thursday, March 20th, 2025 at 6:01 a.m. I did not know that either. I've got to have Brad on. I got to interview Brad because he's been giving me a ton of really cool pieces of information I did not know, including the fact that today is the equinox, the or Ostera. Also, I was with Hilton again last night on Zoom. I'm actually getting myself back to Chicago this next week. The 20 what days? Oh my god, I can't think of it now. The 28th, 29th. There's a first degree at the Jefferson Park Masonic Temple, and then there is a lodge fundraiser at the Jefferson Park Masonic Temple. So my plan is to be there for both of those things. And I absolutely cannot wait to go back. I love traveling. I love being in Chicago. So very cool. Tell Hilton I say hello as well. I would love to talk more about Ostera. Though, I mean, I know very little about it. Spring equinox, which I guess according to Google happened today. Are you doing anything for Ostera? Do you have any celebrations, any rituals planned for today? Is anybody doing anything for Ostera 2025? Again, are any Masonic lodges doing anything? A sacred time of balance and renewal. As nature awakens, Ostera rituals honor fertility, rebirth, and the return of life's vibrant energy. How to celebrate Ostera, the spring equinox. In 2025, the spring equinox falls on Thursday, March 20th, 2025. This day marks the spring equinox, a sacred time of balance and renewal. As nature awakens, austere rituals honor fertility, rebirth, and the return of life's vibrant energy. Celebrating Ostera, the spring equinox, is a wonderful opportunity to align yourself with nature's seasonal rhythms. Ostera is the ancient pagan festival that celebrates the coming of spring. Ostera traces its roots to ancient pagan traditions, particularly those of Germanic and Celtic origin, named after the Germanic goddess Easter, whose name evokes the dawn of burgeoning light of spring. Ostera embodies the cyclical rhythm of nature's birth. In pre-Christian times, communities across Europe gathered to honor Easter and celebrate the vernal equinox, heralding the return of warmth and fertility to the land. So I guess our friend, the Easter Bunny, Easter connects. Although I don't know, I'm not sure when Easter is this year. If anybody knows when Easter is this year, let me know because I'm curious about that as well. Spring, hopefully we can put away the snow shovels. Hopefully, although I will say it's quite the rainy and gross day here today in Windsor and chilly as well. It was super warm yesterday, and so that made me think that maybe we were past winter, but it looks like we have a very not great weather today, though I don't know if we're gonna have any more snow. Today, yeah. So let me know, Brad, if you're doing anything today to celebrate. Maybe you have your own personal rituals that you celebrate the spring equinox with, or interestingly, Ostera prayer. As we turn the wheel towards spring, great spirit and wise goddess, bless my growth. Thank you for the abundance of beauty mirrored in nature during the sacred season. Inspire and encourage me to bring color, passion, energy, and life to my work. Help me to embody my gifts in this world in a way that pleases and honors you. And when I am discouraged, remind me to stop and smell your beautiful flowers. For the highest good of all my kind, so it is. Happy spring. It's from, I guess, the sagegoddess.com. Just checking out some of the stuff that we have on X about the spring equinox. There we go. Good Friday is April 18th. All right, so there we go. Yeah, I was wondering about that because obviously with the Scottish Rite, there's always some special things we have to do on Easter and Maundy Thursday and all that jazz. So before the Enlightenment, the prevailing wisdom, especially Christianity, suggested that earthly happiness was not the primary focus, with happiness seen as a reward in the afterlife. Might still be some truth to that in some ways. I don't know necessarily if I'd say the idea of happiness being the most important thing in the afterlife, but I do think sometimes we overemphasize the importance of happiness. If by happiness we mean temporary joy, we have a tendency to maybe in some ways overemphasize that while underemphasizing kind of long-term happiness or contentment, if you will, as Captain the Dog was pointing out, the importance of being content versus happiness, which are different things. Um, but I do think sometimes maybe we can also underestimate the importance of being happy. Um, I pretty much celebrate every day of life, which is a good thing, but this is a special day and I enjoy just recognizing the wheel of life. Good. Well, I think, yeah, I have been trying that myself recently. This idea of every day I try to find something good. There's usually or almost always something worth celebrating. Um, in the day, I think oftentimes because life gets very busy and there's usually some crisis happening or some piece of bad news or some whatever it is, we can forget about the fact that there's usually, at least in theory, something good that happens, I think, every day, something that you can support. So, or be happy about, even if it's just a nice cup of coffee. So, I think those things are really important to keep in mind. Um, and try to find, if not celebrating life, try to find something every day that you can celebrate that makes you happy. I think that's pretty critical personally. And as always, though, please, if you're just joining us, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing in the chat. Let me know what brings you happiness. um, Let me know also, just out of curiosity, if you had a cold and flu this year, because I'm just getting over my cold and flu, cold/flu, whatever it was. So I'm feeling a lot better, which is good because I have my trip coming up. So it's nice to finally be feeling better than I was the last few days, anyways. That's for sure. But I'm very much also looking forward to my trip return home. That's going to be great. I'm leaving on the 22nd, and pay attention to my live stream schedule, which I'll post on my socials. All right, so we are going to give it another, let's say, 10 minutes, then we'll start with our main topic. But hopefully, this will give people a chance to jump on, say hello, let me know how you guys are doing. And as always, anything you guys want to chat about before we start on the main topic today. All right. And maybe I'll take a few moments to see if we can invite some more people to jump on here. Or just check my socials as always. And please also don't forget, if you're interested, you can support us by um, check out the different stuff we got on social media, and always make sure to check out social media on my social media, Current Compass, so you know, especially next week, the different dates and different times, I should say, for our live streams. I do these normally every Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. But because I will be traveling next week, I'm going to change some of the dates around. And so I will let you guys know what the different times will be, specifically times on my social media. Happiness is a complex and deeply personal emotion. It's something we all strive for, yet it often eludes us in the chaos of our daily lives. It does for sure. Which is unfortunate, but that's kind of how it goes. Um, that we all find ourselves kind of. It's very easy for, unfortunately, happiness to elude us. which I wish that were not the case, obviously. But hopefully, even in the chaos of daily life, you can find, and like I said, you can find moments of happiness. That's something I try to do every day, is try to find something to be happy about, even when we are struggling. Try to find something about which I can feel happy or be happy or hope to find happiness in, even if it's something as simple as a nice cup of coffee. All right, let us give it another 10 minutes. Let's see who else jumps on, if anyone else does. And then we will start talking about International Day of Happiness. What I'll do is maybe I'll share the screen. This is a UN day, so you guys can see the screen we got here. And don't forget, by the way, hit the like and subscribe button. I'm one subscription away from 2,020 subscriptions. So if you guys would hit that subscribe button, I would very much appreciate it. You can even create a new account to subscribe. And check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/square and compass as well. But let me know if you guys can see this on the screen. What is the International Day of Happiness? Today to be happy, of course. Happiness is a fundamental human goal. The United Nations General Assembly recognizes this goal and calls for a more inclusive, equitable, and balanced approach to economic growth that promotes the happiness and well-being of all peoples. We actually talked about that above. Somebody mentioned, right? We talk about economic growth. If you can't pay your rent, happiness is going to be pretty challenging. Governments and international organizations should invest in conditions that support happiness by upholding human rights and incorporating well-being and environmental dimensions into policy frameworks such as the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The effectiveness of governments in upholding peace and social order, as well as the fields of taxation, legal institutions, and delivery of public services strongly correlates with average life satisfaction. The United Nations invites each person of any age, plus every classroom, business, and government to join in celebrating the International Day of Happiness. We're going to talk more about that in about 7 minutes, 8 minutes. Go until, like I said, 45 minutes in. Having a healthy lifestyle is a pretty important way to be happy, I think. Are you exercising? Are you eating well? If you're not physically healthy, again, happiness is going to be more of a challenge. Not impossible. I don't think it's ever impossible to be happy, even if you have physical health issues, but you don't want to make it harder on yourself, you know? Life is hard enough. Why make it more challenging than it needs to be? Right? Never make it harder on yourself than it has to be, I think would be a pretty good lesson for life. Welcome. If you're just joining us, though, please hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing. We'll give it 5 more minutes, then we'll start on our main topic today. What is the International Day of Happiness? What is International Day of Happiness? What makes you happy? And how can Freemasonry and Freemasons encourage and promote happiness amongst its members, in its communities, and potentially around the world? So, as always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know how it's going and what it is that you guys want to chat about. Give it another 5 minutes, see who else joins us. Then we'll start on today's topic. Also, I discovered an interesting little piece of information about the restaurant business, which I thought could be applicable to Freemasonry. Maybe we'll watch that, or if not watch that, at least I'll talk to you guys about what it means for us and for Freemasonry. All right. Just going to give it a couple more minutes, like I said, see if anybody else jumps on. The World Happiness Report of 2025 was launched on Thursday, March 20th. A series of events live streamed from around the world to celebrate the International Day of Happiness. This year's edition once again features a ranking of countries by their average levels of satisfaction. This followed by 6 chapters looking at caring and sharing from different angles. And as always, I hope everybody is doing well. And I hope, if nothing else, you are happy on this International Day of Happiness. And if you're not happy, then I hope that maybe this stream, if nothing else, and hanging out with me can bring you a level of happiness. That would be great, because everybody in my audience definitely brings me a level of happiness. So thank you so much for being here. Truly, truly appreciated. Also, subscribers keep me happy. So if you could potentially hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. I'm 1 subscription away from 2020. So that would be kind of great to have that little benchmark met. Although the fact that you have over 2,000 subscribers is a huge deal. So thank you so much to everybody for that as well. All right, so I guess let's get started. So the things I figure maybe we want to discuss today would be International Day of Happiness 2025. Also, the ways that Freemasonry and Freemasons can potentially improve people's happiness or promote happiness, both amongst its members, in the communities, and around the world. Also, today is the spring equinox, and Brad pointed out that it's something he tries to celebrate, particularly the Wheel of Life. Maybe talk about that a little bit, and a clip I found that could help Freemasonry when it comes to attracting and engaging members as it connects to the world the world of engagement, or the world of repeat customers, which in a sense you could argue we as Freemasons, the goal of our membership is to bring in repeat customers, or at least repeat members to visit, right? I've argued a million times that the problem Freemasonry has right now is not a lack of membership, it's a lack of member engagement, and what that means. All right, so what is the International Day of Happiness, which is today? It is a day to be happy, of course. Happiness is a fundamental human goal. The United Nations General Assembly recognizes this goal and calls for a more inclusive, equitable, and balanced approach to economic growth that promotes the happiness and well-being of all peoples. Governments and international organizations should invest in conditions that support happiness by upholding human rights and incorporating well-being and environmental dimensions into policy frameworks, such as the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The effectiveness of governments in upholding peace and social order, as well as the fields of taxation, legal institutions, and delivery of public services, strongly correlate with average life satisfaction. United Nations invite each person of any age, plus every classroom, business, government, and I would say every Masonic lodge, to join in a celebration of International Day of Happiness. The 17 development goals are a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. No poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being. I've argued before, and I know this is one that sometimes gets me in a little bit of trouble amongst my Masonic brothers, but I truly do believe that Freemasons have a responsibility to be vaccinated themselves or to get vaccinated, get the flu shot. I'm a firm believer in that. And I think that's part of one of these goals. Because if we are healthy ourselves, especially through vaccination, we're less likely to pass on diseases to others, is my understanding, my opinion. Quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry innovation and infrastructure, reduce inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, avoid plastic bags to keep the oceans clean, life on land, plant a tree to help protect the environment, stand up for human rights, lobby your government to boost development financing. So certainly as Freemasons, right, I think that there's a lot of things that we can do to try to encourage some of these items. We can encourage ourselves to be healthier. We can encourage ourselves to support food banks, support local farmers, make donations to reduce poverty, avoid wasting water in our buildings, use energy efficient appliance and light bulbs. How many of our buildings are energy efficient? Decent work and economic growth, industry innovation and infrastructure. All of these things, or a lot of these things, I think we as Freemasons can potentially encourage or promote or help reach some of these goals. Interestingly enough, if you look at the World Happiness Report, I want to talk about this one in particular, sharing meals with others, how sharing meals supports happiness and social connections. Sharing meals with others, how sharing meals supports happiness and social connections. If you are a Freemason, you will have spent, and you're active, I should say, or engaged in Freemasonry, then you should have probably, let's face it, spent a lot of time sharing meals with others and sharing meals with your Masonic brothers and your Masonic brethren. For over a decade, the World Happiness Report has shown that social connections are important drivers of happiness, both at the individual, national level, and across cultures. In this chapter, we present new evidence on an understudied measure of social connection, sharing meals. Given the relatively objective way in which it is measured, sharing meals is uniquely comparable across countries and cultures, between individuals, and over time. Using novel data for 142 countries and territories collected by Gallup in 2022 and 2023, we find stark differences in rates of meal sharing around the world. While residents of some countries share almost all of their meals with other people, residents of other countries eat almost all of their meals alone. These differences are not fully explained by differences in income, education, or employment. Sharing meals proves to be an exceptionally strong indicator of subjective well-being, on par with income and unemployment, which doesn't surprise me at all. Those who share more meals with others report significantly higher levels of life satisfaction and positive affect, and lower levels of negative affect. This is true across ages, genders, countries, cultures, and regions. In the United States, using data from the American Time Use Survey, we find clear evidence that Americans are spending more and more time dining alone. In 2023, roughly 1 in 4 Americans reported earning all of their meals alone in the previous day. an increase of 53% since 2003. Dining alone has become more prevalent for every age group, but especially for young people. Meal sharing also appears to be closely related to some, but not all, measures of social connectedness. Most notably, countries where people share more meals have higher levels of social support and positive reciprocity and lower levels of loneliness. Nevertheless, there remain vast gaps in our understanding of the casual dynamics of meal sharing, subjective well being, and social connections. So again, if you're a Freemason, you're going to have spent a lot of time um, being connected with and to one another and sharing your meals. I mean, at the end of a Masonic meeting, you're going to be sharing meals. Also, many Masonic lodges themselves have um, um, coffee clubs or dinners or special events where people can share, if not a full meal, snacks and coffee, right? Social connections are critically important for human health, happiness, and prosperity. People who are more socially connected tend to be happier, less stressed, more satisfied with their lives, less prone to depression, more engaged in their communities, and less likely to suffer from disease or disability. I've talked about this a lot on this channel, the importance of social connections. In their professional lives, people with more social connections are more creative, cooperative, trusting, and likely to be promoted. They are less likely to commit crimes, earn higher levels of income, and live longer lives. What is it? Least happiest age? I don't know about the least happiest. I feel like the older you get, the happier you tend to be, at least in my experience, until you get to an age where you get diseases and health related or age related health consequences. Then I think happiness drops. But I find most of the people between like 55 and 65 tend to be pretty happy. They've reached a point where they can retire. Hopefully, they saved enough money that they are able to live comfortably. They don't have to work anymore. They maybe don't have to raise their families anymore. So they've done their jobs there. Now they've gone on to their taking care of their grandkids, but they don't have to do it full time. I think sometimes you see the older people get, the happier they are until you get to a point where the age related illnesses creep in. Let me check actually. Happiest age. While happiness is subjective, research suggests a U-shaped curve where happiness peaks in both youth and old age, with a dip in midlife, with some studies indicating that older adults report higher levels of satisfaction and well-being. The researchers found people reach their happiest when they arrived at the age of 70. Life satisfaction decreased between the ages of 9 and 16, increased a little until the age of 70, and then decline again until the age of 96. Which does make sense to me. At the same time, social isolation and loneliness are strongly associated with negative life outcomes. The absence of social ties has been linked to higher rates of disease, shorter life expectancies, lower levels of subjective well being, higher rates of criminality, and greater support for authoritarianism. One widely cited meta analysis estimated the negative health consequences of loneliness and isolation were roughly equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So I've talked about this a lot on this stream, and I 100% believe it. Social connection and connectivity is so important for human happiness. In this chapter, we explore links between sharing meals, social connections, and well-being. Although the topic of sharing meals has remained relatively understudied in the academic literature, the connection between food and social relationships is far from new. In French, copain, friend, and Italian, compagno, may come from the Latin cupus planus, literally meaning with bread. The Chinese term for companion partner stems from a similar term, which literally translates to fire mate, a reference to sharing meals over a campfire. Recently, an emerging body of empirical evidence has begun to point to potential links between sharing meals and a range of social benefits. One review of the literature found that adolescents who ate more meals with family members had better diet and nutritional habits. lower levels of obesity, fewer eating disorders, and greater academic achievement. Another experiment found strong links between meal sharing and positive effect, although these effects were diminished with increasing smartphone use during meal times. Yet another study of roughly 9,000 older adults in China found sharing meals with others was associated with lower rates of depression. In this chapter, we extend this body of work by looking at the relationship between sharing meals and well-being using data collected on a global scale. Give me 1 second. My doctor told me to socialize to your neighbors. You will enhance your happiness. Also, they will notice if you are starting into dementia. Your doctor was right. I believe it 100% based on what I've seen, anyways. You should always listen to your doctors, anyways. And there's different ways to socialize, but one way is, Masonically speaking, to share meals. Let me just go. Let me just see if I can find. So in 2022 and 2023, the Gallup World Poll asked representative samples in 142 countries and territories how often they ate lunch or dinner with family, friends, or anyone else they knew, could be brethren. In figure 3.1, represent regional differences in meal sharing broken down by lunches or dinners. Apparently, it is true, Courtney. That's what I was reading as well. Additional regional descriptive statistics. So apparently, Latin America and the Caribbean share the most meals. North America is up there. Canada and the US are doing okay. Overall, we find a positive relationship between sharing meals and life evaluations. Across countries, sharing one more meal per week is associated with an average increase in health of roughly 0.2 or 0.2 points on a scale from 0 to 10. This difference is both statistically significant and practically meaningful. A difference of 0.2 is roughly equivalent to the difference of 5 places in the global happiness rankings presented in Chapter 2 of this report. So you can see, I guess, the line here, going up this direction. The more meals you share per week, the higher life evaluation you have. I guess otherwise known as the healthier or happier life you will have. In figure 3.7, present the relationship between sharing meals and well-being for younger, ages 16 to 24, and older, age 65 plus. Results for all age groups are presented in figure A4 of the online appendix. There are 2 clear takeaways. The first is the overall difference in subjective well-being across 2 age groups represented by the gap between the blue and red. Older adults report higher life evaluations than young people overall, but lower levels of positive effect. In other words, they are more likely to report being satisfied with their lives as a whole, but less likely to report feeling happy the previous day. Put simply, across regions, countries, and cultures, sharing for men and women, young and old, sharing more meals is associated with greater subjective well-being. As a final note, not only do people who share more meals report more positive emotions overall, they also seem to enjoy their food more. In figure 3.8, we plot average levels of reported enjoyment while cooking and eating for those dining alone compared to those dining with others. We find a clear and positive trend in both cases. The more meals we share with other people, the more we seem to enjoy them. Recent research has also suggested that individuals who feel more positively about different aspects of their eating experiences tend to have higher life evaluations and experience more positive emotions. Taken together, this may suggest that dining experiences are an important, if sometimes overlooked, ingredient in shaping overall well-being. So, if you are eating your meals with others, you're more likely going to find the food better tasting. In this section, we found that differences in sharing meals are also closely related to differences in subjective well-being. This is true across multiple levels of analysis. At the country level, countries or residents share more meals report greater average life evaluations. At the individual level, men and women who eat more meals with others report greater life evaluations, increased positive effect, and decreased negative effect. Although the relationship between meal sharing and negative effect appears to be stronger for women than it is for men, we observed similar dynamics across age cohorts. Both younger and older adults who share more meals report higher levels of well-being, but these links are stronger for the young than for the old. Finally, we know that sharing meals is particularly important for positive effect, more so for life evaluations or negative effect. Put simply, across regions, countries, and cultures, for men and women, young and old, sharing more meals is associated with subjective well-being. That would make it a fun poll question task, actually. Let me just jump this one in here. How many meals do you share with your Masonic brethren per month? So 0, 1 to 4, 4 to 8, over 8. And actually, what I'm going to do is put this poll question up. Even for Courtney, you can ask this question as well, because I know you go to dinners a lot with the brethren in your local lodge area. So it was United Nations. United Nations invented it as part of their resolution. So how many meals or snacks do you share with your Masonic brethren per month? 1 to 4. So 0, 1 to 4, 4 to 8. I guess I should have said 5 to 8 for that one, actually. Or more than 8. And for the record, the more that you share, the healthier life you may have, according to this. So keep that in mind for whatever it's worth. 3 votes. 2 at 4 to 8, 1 at 1 to 4. I'm actually going to make this a poll question on my YouTube as well. Well, it was the United Nations who invented it. Obviously, sharing this, and welcome. If you're just joining us, please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button. Answer our poll question. We're here today talking about the International Day of Happiness, which is today. It was founded by the United Nations as a way to promote and encourage happiness around the world through, amongst other things, the 16 development goals. But they also, in their report released today, talk about the value in terms of happiness and the sharing of meals. And Freemasonry, obviously a big part of Freemasonry is the sharing of meals, which I think is absolutely wonderful. That Freemasons do that, and how sharing of meals can improve overall health and happiness for just for people, regardless of age or gender. So that got me asking the question: how many meals or snacks, could be coffees, do you share with your Masonic brethren per month? And keeping in mind, there are some people, especially if they are older, who may themselves not be able to make it to lodge to share meals. Are there still ways that you can potentially give them rides, invite them out, bring them in virtually to share a meal? Maybe you can set up a camera and they can set themselves up on their computer as a way to share meals. There have been times when I've been hungry and went to a Masonic lodge and received a hot meal. I've had the same exact experience. So, no, I get it 100%. And that's always wonderful, a feeling to know that you can go and travel and visit and take part in a Masonic meeting. That's a really special feeling. And so that is a great feeling. So I'm glad that you got the chance to experience those things. That's awesome that you got to visit your lodge and experience hot meal. And hopefully that helped improve your feelings of being happy or happiness. A key question to emerge from these results is whether sharing meals with others is merely an indicator of well-being or direct causal contributor to it. While we cannot exclusively answer this question here, we can begin to consider some potential explanations. For example, eating alone may simply be more affordable than eating with others. This seems particularly likely in high-income countries where sharing meals with others may be more common in restaurants. If so, perhaps the reason we find such a strong relationship between happiness and sharing meals is simply because people who share more meals have more money, or consider the related causes of unemployment. So obviously that right there is probably not going to be true in a Masonic context, because hopefully, I mean, you may be paying for your meals. Some lodges will take the cost of the meal, divide it amongst the number of people there, and charge that way, though usually guests eat for free. But usually it's much, much cheaper than eating out. Even after accounting for income, education, employment, and other key indicators, we continue to find strong and robust relationships between sharing meals and subjective well-being around the world. In almost all regions, sharing more meals with others proves to be highly predictive of higher level life evaluations, more positive effect, and less negative effect. However, there are notable differences in the magnitude of these relationships across regions. The relationship between sharing meals and well-being appears to be particularly strong in North America, Australia, and New Zealand. In these countries, the differences of well-being between those who eat more and fewer meals together is greater than for any other region. So that includes North America. Um, which obviously I am from North America myself, as are the majority of brothers that I know. In our view, the results of these analyses are the most striking so far. Not only do we find sharing meals and dining alone to be important predictors of well-being compared to income and unemployment, but in many cases they seem to be even more so. That is, asking people if they shared at least one meal last week can tell us more about their overall life evaluation than knowing if they are unemployed, or relatedly, knowing how many meals someone shared last week can tell us more about their positive emotions than their income. Again, the links with positive effect are particularly notable. When explaining variation in positive emotions, the extent to which people share meals with others is a more important predictor than both income and unemployment combined. At the same time, sharing meals also does a better job explaining variation in life evaluations around the world than income or unemployment. Dining alone is a more important predictor of differences in life evaluations than unemployment, but not income. For negative effect, income continues to be a crucially important indicator. Yet sharing meals and dining alone is not far behind. Indeed, both are powerful predictors of negative emotions and unemployment. The point of all this is sharing meals is a valid indicator of subjective well-being. The fact that we observe such strong links between sharing meals, life evaluations, positive effect, and negative effect suggests that meal sharing should be given much more weight and attention by policymakers, and researchers around the world. I think for me, the key is it should be given much more weight in terms of Freemasonry and why Freemasonry is so important and so vital, or why Freemasonry is so important, so vital, because one thing it does allow for is the sharing of meals, either before lodge or after lodge, as well as with things such as or as it relates to health and well-being, and improving personal health and well-being, and improving reported feelings of happiness. Uh, Today being International Day of Happiness. So if you look at the American example, there has been a sharp rise in the number of Americans dining alone since 2003. Perhaps unsurprisingly, some of the highest levels of dining alone were recorded during the pandemic. However, rates of dining alone were increasing long before the pandemic, and they have not come down since. And actually, they talk about this in Join or Die, which is a movie based on this book called Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam. In both cases, they talk about the declining of levels of social capital amongst Americans. And this social capital and declining numbers were both true for where it was true both for people taking part in like actual planned organized social events or social clubs, but even things like picnics and dining with others and going to people's houses and having company, all that stuff was dropping as well as being part of organized events. So even picnics, right? And just going out to the park and having a picnic with your friends dropped from the 1990s on, including since 2003. So you can see dining alone is increasing for all age groups. You can see how much higher it's going, especially for it looks like 18 to 24. If you look here, is increasing significantly higher, but almost every age range, it is going up since 2003. It's all at a higher trend. Most notably, the rise of smartphones and social media is often credited with the observable declines in young people's well-being. We find that Americans who dine alone reported life evaluations that are on average 0.5 points, so half a percentage point lower than those who dine with others. We observe similarly large differences in life evaluations when we split our sample by age cohorts and gender. Dining alone is strongly associated with substantial differences in subjective well-being for both men and women, young and old alike. In figure 316, we present analogous results for happiness, tiredness, stress, pain, and sadness. Again, we split our sample by Americans who reported eating all meals alone on the previous day compared to those who ate at least one meal with someone else, and plot the average levels of daily emotions for each group. In each case, Americans who eat more meals with others reported higher levels of positive effects and lower levels of negative effect than those who dine alone. So this is the chart here. Americans who dine with other is the dark purple. Americans who dine alone is the pink. Americans who dine with others, you'll notice that their happiness is higher than Americans who dine alone. What's interesting is the reported being tired, Americans who dine with others and Americans who dine alone looks about equal. They both seem to be tired. It looks like, honestly, Americans who dine with others might be a little bit more tired. But for these three, Americans who dine with others reported being less stressed, feeling less pain, and being less sad. Americans who dine alone reported higher levels of stress, higher levels of pain, and higher levels of sadness. So, something to think about there. Taken together, our results in this section point to concerning decline in how often Americans share meals with each other. Unlike other social indicators such as loneliness or depression, the relatively objective nature of sharing meals makes it a uniquely reliable metric by which to compare differences over time. Yeah, did you eat with others? It's pretty much a yes or no objective answer, right? The fact that fewer Americans report sharing meals with others is particularly concerning given the close relationship between meal sharing and subjective well-being, a relationship that we have now confirmed in two separate large-scale representative data sets. In the final section of this chapter, we take one last look at the link between sharing meals and social connections and what this link may tell us about societal health and stability writ large. So I've talked a lot about social connections, why it's important, why it matters for health and well-being, and what Freemasonry can do to improve those social connections. Clear as individuals who share more meals with others are significantly less likely to feel lonely and significantly more likely to experience social support. Now that we can analyze individual level responses as opposed to country averages, our sample sizing is certainly larger and resulting estimates are much more precise. This analysis suggests that sharing meals may indeed strengthen and support social ties. Even so, it may still suggest little to nothing at all about levels of trust. What's interesting is they're saying that they don't find a connection between sharing of meals and people feeling trustful of each other, which is an interesting idea because you think those two things would come hand in hand. But for me personally, it doesn't necessarily surprise me because to me, sharing meals means you're more likely to feel trust towards the people you're sharing meals with, but I don't see that connecting to a larger societal view. You're not necessarily going to trust society in general, just the people with whom you're sharing meals. And even then, you may just trust them insofar as sharing of meals with them during that time, but not to, hold your wallet type of thing. But you're still going to feel um, more well-being and happier just in general, even if you may not feel increased levels of societal trust. Cameron, what makes Canadians happy as an entire community? Oh my gosh, see, Canadians are so different coast to coast to coast. It's hard to say. I would say the same things that make people happy. Certainly, our healthcare system, I think, makes Canadians happy, especially if they need help right away. In this chapter, we presented new evidence on the global variation of meal sharing and what it implies for subjective well-being and social connections. Unlike most indicators of social relationships and all indicators of subjective well-being, the number of meals shared with others is relatively objective and directly comparable across individuals, between countries, and over time. This feature makes sharing meals and its counterpart, dining alone, uniquely valuable and well-positioned to reveal new insights into the nature and dynamics of human well-being. Overall, we find stark differences in meal sharing around the world. In the United States, rates of meal sharing appear to be in stark decline, while rates of dining alone are on the rise. This is true for genders and ages, particularly for young adults. Younger adults are eating more alone. Um, we find rates of meal sharing to be closely tied with a handful of related social indicators, most notably social support and loneliness, while being only modestly related to others, including reciprocity and trust. So I think what that says is if you are eating meals with others regularly, you're going to report having higher feelings of social support, and you're not going to feel lonely, though it's not necessarily going to change how you feel about things like reciprocity and trust. But either way, it demonstrates that there are significant mental health benefits and benefits to eating with others regularly. The strong and robust relationship between meals, well-being, and social connections that we have documented in this chapter cry out for future research. If sharing meals is just as important for promoting social ties and subjective well-being as the evidence in this chapter suggests, it may serve as uniquely valuable, actionable, and cost-effective policy tool by which to facilitate and promote societal welfare. So I would agree with this 100%. I wouldn't even put the if here. Sharing meals is just as important for promoting social ties and subjective well-being. People are going to report being subjectively happier, feeling better, feeling less lonely if they are sharing meals. And one thing that Freemasonry can provide for people is the ability to share meals. I mean, every Masonic meeting, either at the end of it or at the start of it, sometimes both, includes the sharing of meals, which I think is very important to keep in mind. So I hope everybody kind of found that of interest. Let me know what your thoughts are in the chat. It depends. It's up to the junior warden, right? So in one of my lodges, so we have 3 lodges. I'm a member of, well, more than 3. I'm a member of 4, potentially 5. But of the 3 lodges of which I'm a member here in Windsor, 2 of them have food before at 6:30, followed by snacks after, and one of them has dinner at usually around 12. Actually, this time we're having an ice cream social, so that'll be fun. So, but I hope everybody is doing well. Please, as always, take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button if you're just joining us. Let me know what your thoughts are on happiness. Actually, that might be a fun question to do. Let me do this as a chat. Hold on just one sec. I think they do sometimes, right, Courtney? It depends on which lodge. I've been to lodges in the States where they toast. We're gonna ask this question: are you happy? Yes, no, unsure. I can say I'm happy for whatever it's worth, but I try to be happy. I don't always succeed, but I try my best to be happy, if nothing else. So Texas is that way. Texas is one of the jurisdictions which, to my knowledge, you're not allowed to have alcohol in a lodge. Although when I say toast, you don't necessarily need alcohol to toast, right? You can toast with wine or with tomato juice sometimes. So you don't always need alcohol to have a toast. But in terms of using like alcohol to toast, yeah, Texas is one where, to my knowledge, no alcoholic beverages at any Masonic meetings. Different jurisdictions have different rules on those things. So it just depends. And also different places have different rules. In some cases, the rule is like no alcohol for anything. In other places, the rule is no alcohol for a Masonic like meeting, but for a special event, you can. So it's interesting. It just kind of depends on what the lodge kind of rules are, or the jurisdictional rules are. But you don't need alcohol to have a toast. As somebody who has never drank myself, I've done many toasts with without alcohol. So two votes for the "Are you happy?" Let's see. 2 votes, both saying yes, which is awesome to see. By the way, please, if you're just joining us, take a moment, hit like, hit subscribe. We're going to end this. I hope that gave you some ideas, at least, about the importance of Freemasonry to people's health and people's happiness, or potentially to people's health and happiness when it comes to sharing of meals. Because, like I was saying, I think Freemasonry does provide a lot of opportunities to help people in those areas in terms of sharing of meals. And we see that the benefits that it provides to people. Yeah, I'm the same. I don't drink. So yeah, I don't drink either. Not to say, by the way, there's nothing wrong with drinking, so long as you do so, safely, et cetera, et cetera. Don't drink and drive. Don't be an idiot. All that good stuff. If you do drink and drive, you're a very stupid person, so don't do that. But Nothing's wrong with drinking as long as you do it responsibly, but it's never been for me. Yeah, actually curious, Dad, what do you think is better? Let me know in the chat what you think, what you prefer. Do you prefer before or after? I was always, for years and years, I was on the side of before. Lately, I'm a little bit more on the side of after. Um, still not. I think both have their value, but let me know in the chat, Dad, what if you have a preference. Um, like I said, I think I'm more a fan of before now than I ever was in the past. Because the thing is, you can always combine it, right? You can always um do a meal before and then just keep stuff warm in an oven, or have, desserts after. If you eat before, you're always giving yourself the opportunity to have more food after. Whereas if you say we will exclusively eat after lodge, that kind of screws people who'd want to eat before. So, in my opinion, so I'm coming more on the side of eating before lodge. But let me know, and anybody else in the chat can let me know what they think as well. Do they have a preference eating before or after? I do, like I said, think now before makes more sense than after. Because you can always start your meal eating before and then keep it going and eat after. Are you happy? 3 votes, all 3 saying yes. So that is awesome to see. I'm very glad about that. I hope everybody watching this is happy. I think it is due to the age of the members attending. They are older and don't have to worry about family meals at home. Age makes a huge deal when it comes to when you're going to eat. Absolutely. That 100% makes sense to me. That the age is going to make a huge difference in terms of when they want to eat. I think, in my experience, older members tend to prefer to eat after dinner, or sorry, older members tend to prefer to eat after lodge, whereas younger members tend to prefer to eat before. Because for older members, they don't have to go home after a lodge meeting to be with the family or to see the kids or whatever it is. They don't mind staying a little bit later. For younger members, especially if they're working, it's like they get off of work, then what are they going to do for, they're working, let's say they work till 5. Do they really want to wait until, let's say, 9 o'clock and the meeting's finished to have their dinner? Or would they rather go right from work to the lodge, eat their dinner, then leave as soon as the meeting is finished, and potentially get to spend more time with the family? Because if you have to stay for dinner, that could be an extra hour you're stuck at the lodge eating dinner, as opposed to being able to get home to see the kids or whatever it is before they go to sleep. Um, Cameron, living Masonic lifestyle by the principle of Freemasonry, would you feel it could possibly bring the individual happiness to live like a Mason? Gosh, that's a tough question. I don't know. I would hope so. I would hope so, but I understand how hard it is to find happiness, even if you're doing it. I hope, if nothing else, it would bring you contentment, if that makes sense. Red Squid X Files. So, Courtney, I'm going to say my hope is it brings you contentment, if not happiness. Red Squid, peace and salutes, peace and salutations to yourself. I hope you are doing well. Let me know how's it going, how you're doing, and what it is, Red Squid, that you want to chat about. I think you've been on the stream before, right? If not, please hit like and subscribe. Today is International Day of Happiness. We've been talking about what makes people happy, the way in which Freemasonry can potentially make people happy. One of the ways is through the sharing of meals. Sharing of meals is declining across the United States. It seems like North America as well, to be honest. And Freemasonry, one of the things that Freemasonry does offer is the opportunity to share meals with its membership and with guests and with family in many cases. So, yeah. That's a good topic. I didn't know. It is. We actually had a whole discussion around, again, the research done on sharing of meals and the different benefits it provides to individuals who do share meals, and the declining happiness you see amongst those who don't. But Red Squid, it is great to have you back. Thank you so much for being here. As always, if you can, please hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing. If you want to learn more about what we were talking about, it's the World Happiness Report. What I'll do is I'll leave the link here so you can track it down. I am happy to see 4 votes. Are you happy? And all 4 at 100%. So that is awesome. Very, very happy to see it. The other thing I just learned is today is the eternal spring equinox, which I did not know. So I'm definitely want to talk about that. And also a very cool clip I saw regarding the restaurant business, which I think can apply to Freemasonry and I think is worth exploring. So all is well. One thing I've been very happy to see is growing the growth in my social media channels, especially X. So if you can follow me on X as well, I'd very much appreciate it. I want to give it a couple more minutes to see if anybody else answers the poll question, are you happy? And then we'll switch to the next topic, which I think what I'll do for the next topic is share that clip I saw about the restaurant business and why I think it may actually apply to Freemasonry. I've got actually a lot of polls I'm coming out with. Just chilling is a good thing. Hopefully, just chilling brings you happiness on this International Day of Happiness. I think sometimes rest and relaxation is something we forget about and the importance of it in terms of bringing us happiness, I should say, bring us happy, geez. All right. Thank you for the 4 votes. So let me just move this over here. All right. Are you familiar with the Egyptian god Happy? I am not. I'm wondering if that's connected to, based on the root or the word itself. I'm wondering if that's connected to this idea of happiness at all. Um, it'd be kind of cool if it was. I might look that up in a second, actually. Actually, before I go on to this clip, let me just look that up because that's kind of cool. Egyptian god of the Nile river. Happy is usually portrayed as a fatal man with a on his breast that symbolized fertility of the river. The god of the annual flooding of the Nile in ancient Egyptian religion. The flood deposited rich silt on the river's banks, allowing the Egyptians to grow crops. Generally celebrated among the Egyptians, some of the titles were happy were Lord of the fish and birds of the marshes, Lord of the river bringing vegetation. The annual flooding of the Nile, occasionally said to be the arrival of Happy, since this flooding provided fertile soil in an area that was otherwise desert. Happy symbolized fertility, not regarded as the god of the Nile itself, but of the inundation of the event. He was also considered a friend of Geb, the Egyptian god of the earth, the lord of Neper, the god of grain. Very cool. Learn something new every day. All right, let me head to my X account where I shared this clip. I've shared in a few other locations as well. Let me see if I can find it. All right. So this is tactical advice for every restaurant. Found this on YouTube, but I shared on a few different locations on my socials. Let me go back to 0. Let me share this screen. So, tactical advice for every restaurant. Let's give it a second for it to show up. Let me know once you guys can see it. I feel like it's still black right now. Okay, there it goes. All right, I think we got it now. This is the dude from Bar Rescue and Gary V, who does a lot of stuff content-wise. But let me just see what we can. I'm going to play this. I'm going to ask you guys, let me know what you think of it afterwards. Let me know if you can hear it, all that good stuff. I'm going to hit the play button now. And if you can't see it, you can read it down here. If somebody, so it starts, if somebody goes to a restaurant. So let me just get this thing all set.
If somebody goes to a restaurant for the first time and has a flawless experience, the statistical likelihood of them doing a second visit is about 40%. They come back a second time and have a flawless experience. The statistical likelihood of a third visit is still about 42%. The third time they come, the statistical likelihood of a fourth visit is over 70%. So you got to market to 3 visits, not 1. Visit 1, free rib dinner. You sit them down, put a red napkin on the table, not a white one. Identify them as a first-time customer, connect with them, and work to get them back a second time and the third time. Once they're there the third time, you own them. Okay, so you put a red napkin at the table. Gary sits down, he's eating dinner. Now he's getting his free rib dinner, orders water, costs him nothing. I know he's a first-time customer because he's got a red napkin. When he's leaving, the manager comes to the table, writes on the back of a business card, $5 off chicken. Did you like the ribs? Loved them. You got to try my chicken. Come in for the chicken. Now I'm prompting a second visit. Now he comes in for the second visit, drops the business card on the table. Everybody knows this is a second visit because red napkin was the first visit. Second visit, you finish the meal, you go up, you say, so how was the chicken? It was freaking great. Are you full? Totally stuffed. Man, next time you got to try my cheesecake. Free piece of cheesecake. Now, 3 visits. Ribs cost me a piece of cheesecake.
Oh, I thought a pizza flavored cheesecake. I was like, that's fucking brilliant.
So the rib dinner cost me $5. The chicken was a washout because it was a discount.
That's right.
The cheesecake is $1.35. For about $6, you got 3 visits out of them with a 70% likelihood of a fourth. That's the way you market a restaurant within the 4 walls of it.
Let me give you one.
So let me know if you guys could hear that okay, if it sounded good on your end. The reason why I think that is so important, and I tried to share it, is, in Freemasonry, in theory, we have already a three visit system, right? We have the first degree, the second degree, and the third degree. And the Grand Lodges are really trying to push getting people to get their third degree. Maybe because somebody saw this and thought it was like, had the same thought I did, which is, again, this idea of, if we can get somebody to visit 3 times, they're more than likely to want to keep coming back, or the likelihood of them returning is up to 70%. So it's about marketing for that 3 visits, or in a Masonic perspective, for those 3 degrees. But the question is, and is one of the reasons that we are seeing the lack of engagement amongst members, is because over time, they're not having an enjoyable degree experience, or they are not, we're not putting on a flawless degree experience that's going to make them want to return. What can we do at each degree, not just to put on the degree, but to put on the degree and make it a quote unquote flawless experience for them? Right? There are a lot of different ways, I think, that we can do that we aren't doing. Could it be making sure that at refreshment, speaking of sharing meals, we ask them what their favorite food is, and we try to provide that for them at refreshment, which will make them more interested in returning? Is it just about making sure we have a successful degree where people know their work? They're not always calling for prompts. They're showing up on time. Like, what is the way that you can maintain and keep your, what's the word I'm looking for? Your engagement, because Freemasonry is one of those things where, again, it's, you're already, in theory, have your 3 visits tied into it, right? You already have your 3 visits tied into it. 3 degrees, first degree, second degree, third degree. And in theory, in my experience, almost always you have people coming back for their 3 degrees. It's rare that you don't have them returning for 3 degrees. But then do they maintain their engagement? That's the challenging part. But the fact that what he's saying here, and again, maybe we'll just play it one more time. This idea of so guess how can we make each meeting special or memorable enough that it makes the candidate want to return, not just to get his degree, but want to return to the lodge in general? Oops, there we go.
There's only
Let me see if I
one skin, two skin, three skin. Where's my
Actually, let me refresh this so we can start it back at the beginning.
There's only one skin, two skin.
No, all right. Let me try that again. All right, let me just give it a second. Let's see once this shares. Come on. Let's see. All right, I'm going to share. All right, let's give it one. Oh, there we go. All right, I think finally, there we go. I'm just going to share this one more time. I'm going to hit the play button. Let me know if you guys can hear it well. And again, keep in mind, Freemasonry, we already have a 3-visit experience kind of baked into the process of becoming a Freemason. First degree, second degree, third degree. So how can we take this information and apply it to Freemasonry?
The statistical likelihood of them doing a second visit is about 40%. They come back a second time and have a flawless experience. The statistical likelihood of a third visit is still about 42%. The third time they come, the statistical likelihood of a fourth visit is over 70%. So you got to market to fight one. Identify him, enter orders, water costs him nothing. I know he's a first-time customer because he's got a red napkin. When he's leaving, the manager comes to the table, writes on the back of a business card, $5 off chicken. Did you like the ribs? Loved them. You got to try my chicken. Come in for the chicken. Now I'm prompting a second visit. Now he comes in for the second visit, drops the business card on the table. Everybody knows this is a second visit because red napkin was the first visit. Second visit, you finish the meal, you go up, you say, so how was the chicken? It was freaking great. Are you full? Totally stuffed. Man, next time you got to try my cheesecake. Free piece of cheesecake. Now, 3 visits. Ribs cost me
a piece of cheesecake. Oh, I thought a pizza flavored cheesecake. I was like, that's fucking brilliant.
So the rib didn't cost me $5. The chicken was a washout because it was a discount.
That's right.
The cheesecake is $1.35. For about $6, you got 3 visits out of them with a 70% likelihood of a fourth. That's the way you market a restaurant within the 4 walls of it.
Let me give you one more for the road. There was a very interesting thing that John said. Notice how he said, first-time customer, I'll give it to you. Because the traditional retail and bar thing is like, if you've already got somebody in the funnel, the cost of acquisition for a newbody is very, very, very powerful. I used to do that too, but it was tricky, right? Because now some of your old-time customers may see that, and they've got that angst of, wait a minute, why am I being not treated that way as a loyal customer? You just want new people. And it's always been a friction for us, right? Now, I just went to Instagram, right? I typed in Lexington, Kentucky. I go to the top 9 posts. I click the middle one. It's a nice little cute couple. right? They got 298 likes. Abby, she has 2,387 followers. I send her a message. Abby, see you in Lexington. We love being part of Lexington. Here's a $20 off coupon. Only she sees it. You're grabbing somebody who has a big social media profile. She comes and she posts a picture of the food and creates word of mouth. Now that $5 acquisition created no friction to loyal customers. And because she's now media, she amplifies it and you're getting an $80, $500, $4,000 media amplification against your $5.
If somebody goes to a restaurant for the
There's an interesting point there that they're making as well, which is the friction between doing what you can to attract new members or keep new members, but not allowing that to affect your ability to support your old time members as well, right? You want to keep them in mind as well too, because they may be the lifeblood of your lodge. And so that's always a challenge. How much time do you spend trying to get new members versus how much time do you spend trying to engage with your older members or your kind of more veteran members, or pick your term. Doesn't have to be older in terms of age. They may be, if they joined when they were 21, but they've been active for 20 years, they're 41. They're not that old, relatively speaking, but they, they may start to feel like if they're being underappreciated for the acquisition of new members, what that means, right? Or to keep new members involved or active. So that's always a challenge as well. To keep a Freemason around would be a great topic. I agree. It would be an awesome topic. Opening a new restaurant is hard endeavor to make it a success. I agree with that as well, 100%. It is a very hard topic, or sorry, very hard endeavor, I should say. Although that's why I think there may be some value in looking at the restaurants that succeed. Because if you are a lodge that is succeeding, or a lodge that is going, or sorry, if you are a restaurant that succeeds, then it wasn't just that you were lucky. It's that you applied certain skills and abilities, and whatever those are, it's worth keeping in mind and practicing those things, right? And so if you see, because opening a restaurant is so hard, if you see a restaurant that is successful, it's worth trying to explore how and why it was successful and what you can do about it. What are a way to revamp things? Are there any customizable parts to a lodge? Asks Red Squid X-Files. By the way, I've just started rewatching X-Files, so I love that show. Yeah, so there are, right? I mean, Freemasonry is way more. Oh, High Altitude Investing. Good seeing you as well. Thank you, High Altitude, for being back. And I saw your episode you recently posted with Black Raven. It was awesome to see Black Raven, somebody who we connected with through this channel, on your stream. Thank you so much for doing that. Me too, hence the name. You picked a good name. Let me know what your favorite episode of X-Files is. Freemasonry is more customizable than people realize. It's more customizable than Freemasons realize. Like with Freemasonry, you have your opening and your closing and your degree, and that is not customizable by and large. It is customizable in the sense that it's kind of like a play. The words are the words, right? The script is the script, but the way you emphasize certain words, the way you deliver the words, the way that is customizable. You can make it your own. You can choose to emphasize different words in different places. Like you can choose different emphases or different techniques to deliver the ritual. All that stuff is customizable to the individual, but the ritual itself is pretty much set. there are certain rules around like what a lodge can and can't do in terms of, for example, if your meeting is set in your bylaws the first Thursday of every month, then you have to meet the first Thursday of every month. And if you need to change it for some reason, you need to ask for permission in advance from the higher ups. But between that, when it's the actual meeting itself, like you can customize special events. You can choose to hold special events. You can choose to hold social functions. What type of social functions? Like for me in April, I'm holding a ice cream tasting for my lodge. We've also done a lot of guest speakers, which you can do, and special events. And there's a lot of customizable things. I think one of the biggest mistakes in Freemasonry is people feeling it's not customizable. Like, so last year I did coffee with a cop and coffee with the fire crew. And they were both really special events. So, and so I think that stuff is really valuable and really important to keep in mind is yes, you can make customizations. And that goes back to what the gentleman was saying in the restaurant business. Like, what can you do to create a special, unique, and customized experience for the new person coming in? Again, maybe we talked about refreshments a lot. Maybe it's worth having asking him what his favorite meal is, and maybe not even doing that for the first 3 degrees, but having his favorite food at the first business meeting after the degree as a way to get him to come back for his first business meeting after he gets his Master Mason degree. Might be worth it, right? So yes, there is a customizable quality for sure. Red Squid X-Files, nice name. I agree. Right now, my TV show I'm watching the most frequently is Lost. I got back into that, but since I do have my Disney Plus subscription rocking out, X-Files is 100% on the list of things I'm checking out. So, Dad has to go. It was great seeing you, Dad. I'll be back on tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, and then I will see you very soon. I will see you Saturday. And if you haven't done so, please don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, etc., etc. The more people we have liking and subscribing, the better it is for the channel. And I did also want to mention, because this was taught to me today by Brad, today is the spring equinox. So, otherwise known in pagan traditions or Wiccan traditions as Ostera. It is. I just found out the spring equinox is today. The first X-Files movie is a real gem. I remember watching that, but it's been so long. I just got into the X-Files again. So, do you prefer the mythology episodes or the more monster of the week episodes? I think I prefer the more monster of the week episodes. I always prefer more episodic television as opposed to the ones that have the more mythology heavy episodes. I remember this great episode in X-Files about what was it about again? It was about vampires, where they each told the story of what happened, but from like Mulder told it from Mulder's perspective and Scully told it from Scully's perspective, and how they both saw each other and described each other. It's kind of a funny episode. In 2025, the spring equinox falls on Thursday, March 20, 2025. This day marks the spring equinox, a sacred time of balance and renewal. As nature awakens, Ostara ritual honors fertility, rebirth, and the return of life's vibrant energy. Celebrating Ostara, the spring equinox is a wonderful opportunity to align yourself with nature's seasonal rhythms. Wondering how to celebrate Ostara in your own home? Whether you're looking for traditional Ostara rituals, altar decoration ideas, or modern ways to welcome spring, this guide will help you connect deeply with the festival's rich symbolism. From egg decorating to planting seeds, embrace this magical celebration and discover how Ostara can inspire your personal journey into the brighter half of the year. Brighter quarter of the year, I would think. Ostara is an ancient festival that celebrates the coming of spring. Ostara traces its roots to ancient pagan traditions, particularly those of Germanic and Celtic origins, named after the Germanic goddess Eostre, whose name evokes the dawn and the burgeoning of light. Ostara embodies the cyclical rhythm of nature's rebirth. In pre-Christian times, communities across Europe gathered to honor Eostre and celebrate the vernal equinox, heralding the return of warmth and fertility to the land. You are welcome, Red Squid, and thank you, as always, again, for being here. Is Red Squid a connection to X-Files? I don't recall if it is or not, but again, just revisiting it now. At its core, Ostara embodies a triumph of light over darkness, symbolized by the increasing daylight and the rebirth of the natural world. The vernal equinox marks a moment of perfect balance where day and night are in harmonious alignment. The symbolic equilibrium mirrors the inner balance we strive to achieve in our lives as we navigate the ever-shifting currents of existence. Ostara's symbols, eggs, hairs, flowers, serve as a reminder of the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth, inspiring us to embrace change, growth, and transformation. The word Ostara derives from Germanic paganism and is believed to be named after the Germanic goddess Eostri or Ostara, who symbolizes fertility, renewal, and the dawn. Eoster was associated with the coming of spring, with the coming of spring and the resurgence of life in the natural world. The celebration of Ostara predates Christianity and was observed by ancient Germanic tribes as a way to honor the changing seasons and the cycles of nature. Today, Ostara continues to be celebrated by modern pagans as a time of spiritual renewal and connection to the earth. Connected with plants and herbs, colors, the hair or the Easter bunny, food, eggs, fresh greens, and dairy products. My original name was The Oldest Soul, but it was too heavy, so I changed it to something easier on the public. I've been on YouTube for 7 years total. I can make wall art for you and AI music. Do you mean like wall art for me, like the back, something I can have like green screen wise, or do you mean on my channel? Because it'd be great. I'm sure that you could provide some awesome stuff. So by all means, get in touch with me through... Hold on just one sec. That's my contact page. You can get in touch with me that way, squareandcompass.ca/contact. And hopefully we can get in touch and let me know how much for your wall and digital. Yeah, I mean, by all means, get in touch through the contact page and we'll go from there. But that would be awesome. I do appreciate it very much. Let me know maybe how much you charge. Let me know what some of your favorite parts about being on YouTube are, by the way. And if you have any advice, I'd love to hear it. And looks like I got one more subscriber so far. So thank you so much to everybody who has been subscribing to the channel. Truly, truly appreciated. So just joining, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. So I think those were the three main topics I wanted to discuss today. International Day of Happiness, and particularly the value of eating meals together, as well as the 3-visit dynamic that most restaurants have, and how we as Freemasons can potentially take advantage of that through perhaps customization of some of the different parts of our meeting to the individuals joining, or even getting them back. Maybe the goal is, a lot of times we in Freemasonry try to get people to come back for one meeting. Is it worth trying to get them to come back for 3 meetings? And what does that look like? And how do we change the work? And the celebration of Ostera. And then again, I was talking before about, I do want to talk about symbolism in Lost, and where I think it parallels with Freemasonry, the old TV show Lost from 2005, which it makes me sad to even call it an old TV show. But to me, I think the main thing is this idea of the light. What is light, how it works? Because in Freemasonry, one of the things we talk about is this idea of light, finding light, what light is, the material blessing of light. What is the material of light, for that matter, right? What is light actually made out of? How does it operate? How does it operate in time? All that stuff, I think, is super valuable and super worth exploring. And in Lost, obviously, light plays a major role. The idea of protecting the light, if you will, plays a major role in that series. Also, the Egyptians play a major role symbolically in that series. And Freemasonry and ancient Egypt are obviously very connected to each other from a symbolic and symbolism perspective. And we got 7 votes to the question, are you happy? Yes, 100%. So glad to see we got 7 likes. Happy to see 100%. New report says that light is another form of matter. Spirit box relays talk a lot about light as the most important thing to those on the other side. Well, I mean, light would be, to my understanding, light is both a particle and a wave. The particle component is called a photon. So I guess light is a electromagnetic radiation that can be perceived by the human eye. Electromagnetic radiation in the visible light region, EMR, consists of quanta, which are called photons, that are the lower end of the energies that are capable of causing electronic excitation with molecules. Speed of light in a vacuum is defined as exactly 299,792,458 meters per second, or approximately 186,282 miles per second. What's interesting is when you're traveling at the speed of light, you do not experience time, which I think is kind of a cool little fact. Probably connects to what you're saying about the spirit box. Is light a particle or a wave? Talking about the material nature of it. In an approximate way, light is both a particle and a wave, but in an exact representation, light is neither a particle nor a wave, but is something more complex. As a metaphor, consider a cylindrical can of beans. If you hold the can sideways, force a friend to look only at its shadow, and ask him what shape the object has, he will respond rectangular. But now, turn the can 90 degrees, have a second friend look at just the shadow, and he will tell you the can is circular. Now have your two friends debate each other about the true shape, and they will not make much progress. Which one is right? They are both right in a way and both wrong in a way. A cylinder is circular. Light sometimes acts as a wave and acts as a particle other times, depending on the situation. This only makes sense if you accept that light is something more complex, something that from a certain perspective looks like a wave and from another perspective looks particle-like. So what really is light? The question is hard to answer without delving into complex mathematics. The situation is much like the proverbial elephant. Light is a complex valued probability distribution that has quantized properties such as energy. The smallest piece of light is called a photon. Like a wave, a photon experiences diffraction, bending around corners, interference, fringed patterns, refraction, bending when entering material, reflection, dispersion, wave shape spreading, coherence, lining up phases, and has a frequency. Like a particle, a photon contains a fixed energy, a fixed momentum, and a fixed spin, and can be measured to have a single fixed location in space. The wave-like and particle-like traits of a photon trade off according to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. This means the more you force a photon to act like a particle, for instance, by confining it to a small box, thereby lowering the uncertainty in its position, the less it acts like a wave. In the famous Young's double slit experiment, a coherent beam of light is directed through two slits and then onto a photogenic plate. When each photon hits the plate, it makes a single point-like mark, indicating that the photon interacted with the plate as a particle. This is one of those topics where I'm not by any means an expert, though I have been lucky enough to have several guests on who are more expert in these fields. Might be worth going back and doing an actual podcast episode about what is light. Interesting, 9 votes. Are you happy? We actually looks like 7 said yes, 1 said no, and 1 said unsure. To the person who said no, I hope that maybe you being here will make you feel happier. Or that you are doing better. To the person who said unsure, that might honestly be the best answer. How sure can any of us be that we are truly happy or what happiness means, you know? Some who believe in the black hole sun concept, the sun is really dark and the light we see is a shine or something. Shine from what? Because the shine kind of has to come from somewhere, right? Right now, the phrase nasty Canadian is trending on X, and I'm not sure why or what is going on. I feel like there are probably a lot of black dots in and around the sun, right? I'm not necessarily sure that would prove that it's necessarily that the sun itself is dark, because there are sunspots, right? Also, it might be something passing in front of the sun, because at different points in time, right, at different points in orbits, Mercury, Venus will pass in front of the sun. Rondo Ellsworth, isn't Black Hole Sun a song? It is a song by Soundgarden, if I recall correctly. Or Chris Cornell? And welcome, by the way, Rondo. It's good to have you. I hope you answered our poll question. Don't forget to hit that like button and that subscribe button. I hope that you are doing well, and it's great to see you back on the stream. Don't forget to everybody who is watching this, you can also support us by going to our Patreon, patreon.com/square and compass. Let me see if maybe I was the unsure vote. I appreciate that, Rondo. I think, like I said, I think honestly, the unsure vote might be the best vote in some ways, because how can any of us be sure if we are happy or not? You know, that gets into a lot of complicated questions about what is happiness. So not a bad answer, but we do have 10 votes. 7 are at the yes, 2 are no, 1 is unsure. The people who said no, I hope if nothing else, being here is maybe making you guys feel a little bit happier, and being around some friends, hopefully. The reason I was asking that question, I'm not sure how long you've been here for, Rondo, is today is International Happiness Day. I do think that Freemasonry can hopefully create more happiness in the world and improve the happiness for both its members as well as the world at large and the communities in which it's located. One of the ways is by encouraging people to eat together. One of the things that a recent study noted is that in the States, at least, more and more people are eating alone. And that does have some negative effects on certain qualities and aspects of people's life. AGSW. Welcome, AGSW. Thank you for being here. I hope that you will take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button. I'm very sorry that you are sad, but I am happy that you can feel again. I find sometimes when it comes to depression, I'm not a doctor or anything like that by any means. I'm none of those things. But I do find some of my friends who've experienced depression have said themselves, it's not so much that they feel sad. Exactly. It's more that they just feel numb or don't feel anything. So maybe feeling sad is a good step from feeling nothing or not being able to feel anything. So I guess with that, I guess I'm happy for you, AGSW. Mostly what I'd say, AGSW, is I am happy that you are here. I hope that you continue to do better. And maybe if you went from not being able to feel anything to feeling sad, then I hope for you the next step is that you feel happy. And thank you so much for being here. By the way, AGSW, because I don't recall if you've been on the stream before. I don't think so. I do these streams every Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. We talk about Freemasonry, which is my favorite thing to talk about. Today, we talked about Freemasonry as it relates to International Happy Day, or International Day of Happiness, and how Freemasons can improve happiness for its membership and the world at large. Then we switched it over to chatting about the 3-visit rule for restaurants and how that can apply to Freemasonry. Then a little bit about the spring equinox. And so now we're just at the general chatting phase. So AGSW, I hope you will hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And I also hope that if you have any questions about Freemasonry, you will jump in the chat and let me know what they are. And I hope that you're doing well. Like, have you been on the stream before? Because I don't recall if I've seen you on here before. but it's good to have you join. And as always, for everybody watching this, like, subscribe, check out our patreon.com/square and compass. If you want to join Patreon, you can join for free. Follow me on social media, all that good stuff. But thank you so much. And thank you for being here. Again, I really do appreciate it. I'm going to give it a bit of time. We're going to see who else potentially joins us and jumps in the chat. It'd be great to have you here. I was dealing with a super fun cold the last few days, so I didn't get to do this on Tuesday and Monday and Wednesday. My streams were a lot shorter than they usually are, so it's fun to be back here doing this longer stream. And you can always follow me on social media as well. Twitter, Facebook, all that jazz. I'm just going to give it a bit of time, see who else joins us. So AGSW, if you don't mind me asking, how'd you come across the stream? Was it recommended to you by the algorithm? Do you search for stuff about Freemasonry a lot? As always, I would love to know because that stuff helps out big time. And if you're in Windsor, by the way, and you're looking for something to do and you like magic, check out Bill Nouveau's show he's got on Saturday. It's going to be pretty awesome. What's one thing about your career that you didn't expect? That's a really good question. Wow. Great question, Courtney. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad it just popped up. Thank you to the YouTube, the little robots at YouTube. And again, I hope this is making you maybe move from feeling sad to feeling happy. But again, I'm happy that you went from feeling that you can feel again. Oh my gosh. What a question. One thing I didn't expect. Really great question. I'm going to say the fact that it could be a career, or you can try to make it a career. That is something that I did not expect. Doing this YouTube channel is not something I ever thought I'd do at the start. So that's been wonderful. Meeting people such as yourself. I mean, how could how can you expect to meet somebody? You just kind of meet them, but it's been great having you be part of this as well. The ability to travel, the friends I've met. There are so many different and incredible things that I've got a chance to take a part of or be a part of. So yeah, I guess like I said, there's so many, but maybe even doing this at all has been really special and not something I expected at all. So that has been really wonderful. But it's absolutely a great question that you asked. So the amount of challenges that Freemasonry is experiencing right now, I also did not expect that. I knew it was facing challenges, but the number, I mean, they're not small, for better or worse. So that is something that, again, I probably was not expecting, though. It's been it provides me with an opportunity to potentially fight for things as well, which is really special. And as always, if you're just joining us, please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know if you're doing anything to celebrate International Day of Happiness. It's been interesting to see on X all of the different posts about the International Day of Happiness. It's been great to see everybody jumping on the day of trying, as however it is you can, to try to share happiness in the world, which I think is a pretty wonderful thing. I'm going to see if I can invite somebody quickly. I'm utterly fascinated by your Freemasonic career. Being an amputee, my guy, like the logistics of the ritual and whatnot. I mean, unfortunately, I can't share a ton of the logistics, right? Because I don't want to share too many secrets. What I will say is, for my 3 degrees, I had somebody join, and I had somebody basically act as almost a stand-in. In some case, literally act as a stand-in for me. And if there was any, because there are, for example, in Freemasonry, different steps you have to take, and feet placement, things like that. And because I can't do those, I had a friend who was a Mason, obviously, perform those for me. And so that was something really special, and added a neat little touch. Again, I may have I've talked about this in the past, but in Freemasonry, in Ontario anyways, amputees were not able to join Freemasonry until the 1920s, because you had to be a whole man, quote unquote, whole man, define as you will. And so the reason that they changed was because after World War II, World War I, excuse me, a lot of veterans were returning from the war and needed to, were asking to join. They wanted to join to maintain that friendship and brotherhood and fellowship that they felt between overseas, and also continue serving their country. And Freemasonry was a way for them to do that, or at least their communities. And obviously, Freemasons realized it's pretty terrible to see men returning from war and not allow them to join because they lost limbs serving the country. And so they changed the rules. And I think that was in 1924, something to that effect. I'm glad society has realized that missing a limb doesn't reduce a man's manhood. I think they always understood it. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were many times when it was very challenging to be an amputee. But I think overall people understood it. I mean, the reason really that it came from had more to do with the fact that Freemasonry evolved from operative Masons in the 14th and 15th century, men who built things out of stone. And it was very hard to build things out of stone in the 14th and 15th century if you're missing limbs. Obviously now, and thank God, I'm incredibly grateful to be alive when I'm alive. They have artificial limbs, and you can be a stonemason. You can be in anything and be missing your limbs, right? That's not an issue. But in the 14th century, it was more of an issue, and some of these things just kind of passed through and kept on existing. for perhaps longer than they should have. How about some Freemasonry philosophy? Asks AGSW. What was your personal turning point in taking health more seriously? So AGSW, I'm going to get to your question or your statement in just 1 second. Courtney, I would say 2 things. COVID, it made me, I always got vaccinated or believed in vaccinations, but COVID was the first time I kind of viewed vaccinations as more important in a global sense, or that everybody should do it. And the idea of like, it's important to care for your health, because if you do get yourself sick, or not even get yourself sick, but if you're not caring for your health and you get sick because you're not caring for your health, you're taking resources away from others who may need it. There are certain times when you have no choice, where it's genetics, it's bad luck, it's whatever it is, and you can't control it, and you just need medical intervention. But I think to exist in society, part of our responsibility, including as Masons, but not exclusively as Masons, is to care for ourselves so that we can, as much as possible, not use resources that could go to help others. We want to contribute more to society than we take from it. And that includes by taking care of our health. We leave hospital resources and health resources available for others. And I think it was during COVID where I really first started to appreciate the interconnectedness of health, and how I can't just say, well, it's just my health exclusively, and so therefore I can do what I want. I actually have to, from a philosophical perspective, understand that if I don't take care of my health, that will affect the health outcomes for other people. Because if I find myself in the hospital for something that's preventable, but they need to treat me, then that makes it harder for that doctor, who has to treat me, can't be treating me and, somebody else at the same time. He kind of has to. So I want to make sure, as much as I can, I'm ensuring that the resources goes to those who need them, and not to me for kind of poor health decisions. Having said that, I'm the first to admit I'm not perfect. I certainly don't pretend to be perfect. I fail a lot of things that I try to do, but I am trying to be better with my health. That includes drinking more water, exercising more regularly, things like that. Even my dental health, I'm trying to be better about. So how about some Freemasonry philosophy, asks AGSW. The thing about Freemasonry philosophy, and sorry, AG, I'm not sure if you're a Freemason yourself or not. There is no overarching Masonic governing body which would set aside or set up or teach the specific Masonic philosophies. So in America, there are 51 jurisdictions, which correspond to the 50 states plus Washington, D.C. And each jurisdiction sets the rules for that jurisdiction. There's also Prince Hall, by the way. So you could argue 100 if you wanted, jurisdictions. And so in Texas, the rules that they make for Texas don't apply to Louisiana, don't apply to Illinois, doesn't apply to Ontario. Here in Canada, where I'm from in Canada, you have 10. So there are, in the States, approximately 800,000 Freemasons, 850,000 Freemasons. Each one of those will have his own personal philosophy. And again, there are overarching connections. You see some of it a little bit in Morals and Dogma, though, to be honest, that is an overrated. Most Freemasons haven't even read it. But Morals and Dogma, Albert Pike. So for me personally, my Masonic philosophy, if you were to ask me what is the overriding Masonic belief, it is that the world can be made better through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. And that we as Freemasons have a duty to try to build a better world through, or build the world better through brotherly love, relief, and truth. But other people will have different philosophies. I would say, again, there is no Freemasonry philosophy in a global sense. There are what you could describe as landmarks, such as, for example, the idea of you need to believe in a supreme being. For recognition purposes, you need to, be an adult to join. You need to join of your own free will. You can't join if you're being coerced into joining, or somebody is trying to make promises to you. So things of that nature. Imagine you're launching an outrageous business idea. What company would you bring to life? Looks like Red Squid X-Files has some ideas. Because the current situation going on geopolitically, I'm sure I don't know what you mean by that. It's been quite an interesting geopolitical time. Have you noticed a renewed interest in Freemasonry as a venue for building understanding? It's tough to say. I don't think so. I mean, I've seen a renewed interest in Freemasonry in more the conspiratorial side of things, certainly. Unfortunately, if you go onto X and you type in Freemasonry, you tend to see some pretty interesting things. So I wish we saw more positive approaches. One thing I actually asked in some past podcast episodes or live streams, and I'm not sure if you saw those, Rondo, is whether or not the tariff situation would affect Freemasonry across the borders between Canada and the US. A lot of people thought it might, or think it will, and I think it will as well. You cannot separate Freemasonry from, in my opinion, from the geopolitical climate of the community or the countries or the worlds in which we find ourselves, as much as I wish we could. And so part of being a Freemason is you have to accept and understand that the geopolitical situation in the world is going to affect Freemasonry and Freemasons, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending how you view it. But I'm hoping maybe if we continue to see these challenges when it comes to Freemason or geopolitical situations, for example, Trump calling us a nasty Canadians or whatever the hell it was, maybe that will encourage people to look for more positivity in the world, including positivity through Freemasonry. One can hope. AGSW, thank you so much. I'm glad that you liked my answer. If I try to book about Freemasonry tomorrow, probably I try to make it as practical a book as I could. So how Freemasons can create a more engaging lodge experience for its membership, I think, is what I would probably say. We got 12 votes, by the way. Are you happy? Yes, 67%. No, 17%. Unsure, 17%. So I can't do math in my head, but I think that works out to 8, 2, and 2. 8 happy, 8 saying yes, they're happy. 2 saying no, they are not happy, and 2 saying unsure they're happy or not, which unsure might be the best answer. By the way, please take a moment once more, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, let me know how you're doing and what it is that you want to talk about. And interestingly enough, looks like we might have an election coming up in Canada. Thank you, Red Squid, for everything, and thank you for getting in touch with me. I will keep you. I will be doing these every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Sorry, every Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. I do these live streams unless I'm feeling sick, which I was unfortunately for a bit. So I'm happy to be back doing these once again. Red Squid, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for getting in touch. Welcome. If you're just joining us, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, jump in the chat. Let me know how you're doing. Today is International Day of Happiness, hence the poll question. Are you happy? We've talked about the ways in which we as Freemasons can potentially improve the happiness for both our membership as well as the world at large and our communities. We also talked about the 3 visit rule that restaurants have, which can potentially help Freemasonry attract and maintain its membership engagement. Talked about the spring equinox, which is today, and the Ostera rituals or Ostera celebrations, which is a pagan ritual, which some people celebrate. So thank you so much. If you're here, though, please hit like, hit subscribe. Let me know how you're doing and what it is that you want to talk about. We're back at that part of the poll, the stream where it's just chatting with people. If you have positive views of Freemasonry, that is awesome. I'd love to know more. If you have negative views of Freemasonry, that's okay too. Let me know what they are, and maybe I can talk to you at least about my experience. And if you have no opinion at all about Freemasonry, you want to learn more about it, great. I'd love to learn more about that as well. So hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Let me know how it's going and what it is that you want to talk about. What are some of the appendant bodies you find to be interesting? Well, I mean, interesting. They're all interesting in their way. I am a member of Scottish Rite. I'm 18th degree. So that was the one I found most interesting, at least interesting enough for me to want to join. But I find them all interesting in different ways. I mean, I know the least about York Rite, so I'd like to learn more about that. So that's a type of interest I have. You know, sometimes ignorance creates interest. Sounds like a tattoo. Ignorance creates interest. Welcome, though. I hope everybody is doing well. Please hit the like and subscribe button if you're joining for the first time. Jump in the chat, say hello, answer our poll question. Are you happy? Because today is the International Day of Happiness through the UN resolution. They do reunions. They do 3. So in Ontario, anyways, I can speak to Ontario. They do 3 reunions per year. And they go very well. We have basically the Perfection, which goes 4 to 14, Rose Croix, which goes 15 to 18, and then you go to Consistory, which takes place in Hamilton. So So we actually just had our reunion for Lodge of Perfection last month, and next month, or this month actually, next month we have Lodge of I can't think of the next one, Rose Croix. So they could. I don't know how they do it in South America. I know in some places they're doing reunions, like they do basically 4th through 32nd all in one weekend in some jurisdictions, which to me is crazy. I also did learn, though, it's interesting to note that there is actually Scottish Rite, EAFC and MM degree specific to Scottish Rite ritual. Some places do offer it, including Louisiana, but that's something I learned yesterday from Brad Parkinson. So thank you, Brad, for sharing that. He's a great part of the stream. But I think, yeah, I mean, if we have some South American brethren who sometimes jump on the stream. So maybe if one of them does jump on, yes, I think DC may. I think actually Texas had some as well. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Actually, Chris Hodap of Freemasonry for Dummies fame wrote a blog post about that, and he listed the locations, but I can't think of where they were now off the top of my head. But I think some of them were in DC. Louisiana is the one that I remember off the top of my head, and I think I saw Texas there too, but I could be wrong. We're just going to give it a bit more time. We're going to see who else wants to join. All those locations vibe off what I've heard. Yeah, there was actually, like I said, Chris Hodap did do an actual blog post about it. They can, I mean, I suppose they could campaign. It wouldn't make a difference to my knowledge. Right, because at the end of the day, it's not something that, you know, probably honestly campaigning would be the worst thing you could do if you wanted it, because my suspicion is that might cause people to be less inclined to want you to have it. But whether you campaign or not won't make a difference. It's whether they think you deserve it. I'm sure there have been times historically where people have behind the scenes, you know, tried to get people to put a good word in for them or whatever it is, but it certainly is not the way it should go, put it that way, for whatever it's worth. In general, campaigning in Freemasonry is almost always not allowed or not considered appropriate, even when it comes to being an officer. Like, when you want to be the worshipful master of a lodge, for example, you know, trying to campaign for it is not going to go well. Basically, if you've done everything right and you've demonstrated your skills and abilities in the experience of being a Freemason, then you should be able to receive it, right? But if you start campaigning for it, it's not a good thing, probably, and will probably not be very helpful to you in your Masonic career. So as a rule, campaigning is almost always going to be more of a no. I hope everybody is doing well. Please take a moment, if you haven't done so yet, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing. Vote in our poll question. Are you happy? The reason I asked that is because today is International Day of Happiness. Check us out on social media as well. I'm always trying to encourage people to check out my socials. They are growing, which has been awesome to see. I'm hoping they will keep growing. But I suppose we could always say, may you be at peace. May your heart remain open. May you awaken to the light of your own true nature. May you be healed. May you be the source of healing for all beings. That is a prayer for today, Ostera, the spring equinox, which is a pagan holiday. From Canada, smile today. International Day of Happiness. Today, Canada celebrates the things that bring us joy, remind ourselves the importance of doing things that make us truly happy. What is something that fills you with happiness? I've also posted things on social media about Euclid, the space mission, not the Father Geometry, but rather the Euclid space mission. So hopefully we can all check that out as well. I think maybe tomorrow I might do a stream about Euclid. Might be kind of fun. Just waiting to see if anyone else jumps in the chat. Lets you know how they're doing, what they want to talk about. We do these streams every Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, where we chat about Freemasonry. Today's stream has gone great. We talked about International Day of Happiness, which is happening today, as well as today is the spring equinox. So there's lots of fun things to chat about. I've got a few more subscribers, so thank you so much for that. As always, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing and what it is you want to talk about. And next week, you'll get the chance to see me do some of these live streams from new locations, because I will be traveling back home to Winnipeg, which will be a lot of fun to be back. But yeah, and then I'll be in Chicago once again. Last time I was in Chicago, I did a live stream, and Glenview, I should say. I did a live stream about the history of Freemasonry in Illinois, which was a lot of fun. But I'll have some more good live streams happening in the coming month, or coming weeks, I should say. We're just going to wait to see if anybody else jumps on the stream. Any questions? It was a great turnout for the stream, as always. Thank you to everybody who joined. I'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll do another stream then, which will be, as always, a lot of fun. So thank you so much, everybody who has joined so far. I'm going to give it, I think, another, let's see, maybe another, because we've done this for 3 hours so far, another maybe half hour or so. Then we'll be back tomorrow. Just going to wait to see if anybody jumps on and says hello. Let me just put it down here once more time. And this weekend, I am going to do on my personal channel another live stream movie watch along. I'm just not sure which one it'll be yet. If anybody has any ideas of live stream movies, I like to do stuff that's on Tubi or available for free on streaming. So if I can think of anything, I will know. Or if anybody has any suggestions, let me know. $12 votes, by the way. Are you happy? It looks like the majority are yes, but it looks like we got a couple no's and a couple unsures. Hopefully, if nothing else, being on this stream or joining us can make you happy. Talking about Freemasonry is something that makes me happy. So. You are welcome, Courtney. Thank you. And Courtney, as always, I hope you are happy. Rondo Ellsworth, have you ever seen the series called The Prisoner starring Patrick McGoohan? I don't think so, but it sounds familiar, so I may have heard of it. Irish-American actor. It was a British television series. Sci-fi, looks like from 1967. But no, I've never seen it before. Might be kind of fun to do that as a stream. Or maybe review it. I don't know where I'd find it. Are you a fan of that TV show yourself, Rondo, I should say? Are you a fan of sci-fi in general? It's on YouTube. It's wildly symboled, so I've always thought it would be right up Freemason's alley. I'll check it out. Wonder if maybe there's any connections if I just go to Google and see. But the thing about connections between groups, symbols, TV shows, and Freemasonry, I think a lot of times it's not that there's a direct connection. It's not like, oh, I'm creating this TV show and therefore I'm a Freemason and I'm going to put Masonic symbols into this. Rather, the way it works, at least in my experience, is part of being you put in symbols and ideas, and then there are parallels that you can draw, right, between Freemasonry and the symbols, because symbolism, symbolic thoughts, ideas, they can run parallel in multiple different facets of people's lives, in my also humble opinion. It's kind of like you see pyramids being built around the world, all having the same shape. It's not because they were communicating with each other. It's because the pyramid structure is this type of structure that makes sense. There's a common element to it. It's a symbolic language, like understanding design concepts. I'm a graphic. Okay, so yeah, so I think that's a perfect way to put it, Rondo. It's a symbolic language, right? And that's what Freemasonry trades in. That's what so many of these things trade in. symbolic languages, and symbols is how we understand the world, right? And whether you are a graphic designer or even designing a house or whatever it is, part of those designs are going to be functional, but part of those designs are going to be symbolic. And I'm sure being a graphic designer is no different. But that's very cool that you're some graphic designer, by the way. That it's awesome. I'm sure, by the way, if you, Freemasonry could use more graphic designers in it to design things like our summonses and our paperwork and all that type of stuff. So we could use more. I mean, people have a million different skills. Whatever skill it is that you have, you can almost certainly find a way to apply it to the betterment of Freemasonry. I mean, I suppose really the world, but certainly Freemasonry and your Masonic lodges. Blood, sweat, or treasure. I'm not sure what that means. Well, I mean, I was always taught the three most important things that you can provide to Freemasonry is, the three things that you have kind of control over is you can either provide your time, you can provide your treasury, or you can, what were those? That's kind of the two you can provide, really, time or treasure, right? You can, how much money do you have to provide? Because some will donate, but obviously most lodges, there's a set, or pretty much every lodge, there's a set dues payment. So, I mean, for me, I'm paying $100 per year for one of my lodges, for example, and that's what I provide to the treasury side of it. There's the time side of it, how much time I'm willing to give to Freemasonry, and then there's the you kind of have those two things that you can provide to it. So hopefully you are providing a little bit of each. You're providing some of your time and some of your finances and some of your brain power as well in some ways, like your intelligence. So maybe you can't provide, or you can provide some good ideas. So yeah. You picked up what I was putting down. Glad I picked it up, and I hope that and I appreciate the idea of provide what you can. The example I've given in the past is if you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. If you can't crawl, get somebody to carry you. If you're too heavy to be carried by yourself, get two people to carry you, etc., etc. What I mean by that is there's always a way that you can find to contribute to your lodge and to the world even, right? And you should try to find ways to do that as much as you can. And thank you, everybody who has taken part in the stream so far. Thank you, Courtney. I can't wait for tomorrow's as well. Probably tomorrow, honestly. What I'm going to talk about is Euclid space mission, which I think is a very important space mission and worth exploring. If you can't crawl, roll. There you go. And if you can't roll, then ask somebody to carry you. Put it that way. There was that old story I really liked of there was this young boy and he was trying to lift a big heavy stone and he couldn't lift it, and he ran to his mom and he said, "Mom, I'm trying to lift this big heavy stone. I used all my strength, but I couldn't lift it." And the mom said, "Well, did you ask me to help you?" And the boy said, "No." And then the mom said, "Well, then you didn't use all of your strength." I always liked that as a story, and I think there's some interesting Masonic connections. If you need help, if you're trying to do something and you can't, are you asking your Masonic brothers for help? And if you're not, then you're not using all of your strength to complete the task. I know sometimes we don't like to ask for help, but in my opinion, it's almost always worth asking. Never, don't be too proud to ask for help. You're a Freemason. Presumably, you became a Freemason for a reason, and I became a Freemason to fight for a better world, but I can't fight for a better world by myself. I need I need people to help me to fight for that better world. Don't forget Rondo, by the way, if you get the chance, and I hope you might consider becoming a Patreon supporter. You can actually join for free, so you don't need to pay anything, or you can, pay $3 a month or whatever it is. I'm sending out my Patreon lists soon, or my Patreon correspondence soon. If you join, you get some special correspondence. With Spirit of Justice just joined. Welcome, Spirit. I think unsure might be the best answer, to be honest with you. I think happiness is such a hard thing to define. Sometimes it's really challenging. So I like your answer a lot. There's nothing wrong with saying, are you happy? Unsure. I get that. And I think happiness is hard to define. So good for you, Spirit. Welcome. The reason we're asking the question about happiness is because today is International Day of Happiness. We talked about ways in which Freemasonry can improve people's happiness, both its lodge members as well as the world at large. So I think it's kind of really cool and fun to check out. So yeah, I hope everybody though is doing well. We talked about one of the ways that Freemasonry encourages happiness is by encouraging people to eat together and not eat alone, because eating alone, resulting in a lack of social connectedness, can result in significant decrease in happiness. But Spirit, it's good to have you here. So 13 votes. It looks like, I'm going to guess, we've got 8 votes. Yes, are you happy? 3 votes unsure and 2 votes no. Don't forget, you can also answer these poll questions on all of my YouTube channels as well under the community tab. We've actually got a lot of people answering the poll questions right now, which is great to see. I truly appreciate it when people answer my poll questions, my quizzes. Go to the community tab on Scoring Compass Promotions, and you can see all of the different polls I do and everything else. The more people have answered those questions, the better it is. But Spirit, let me know how you're doing. I hope that you are doing well. Everybody who's just joining us, please don't forget, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, check out our Patreon, and let me know what it is that you want to talk about. And let me know if you're doing anything to celebrate International Day of Happiness, or how you might try to spread happiness to others or find happiness to yourselves, which can be just as challenging as anything else. In 2025, sometimes it feels like finding happiness can be a challenge, but sometimes happiness is just about the work that you're willing to do and how hard you are willing to work to find happiness. But it's great to have Spirit join. And thank you to everybody who has hit that subscribe button. Made it up to 2,020 subscribers, which is awesome. So thank you so much. The biggest thing you can do to support this channel is hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave comments on our streams. Courtney, I always appreciate your comments. So thank you so much for that. And tomorrow, by the way, at 1 p.m. Eastern, another live stream I think we're going to talk about then is going to be Euclid Space Mission, and why that might be important to Freemasons or Freemasonry. Thank you, Rondo. I truly appreciate that. That's very kind of you. It is, like I said, the Patreon, it is growing, and I appreciate all the members. So if you get the chance, I hope that everybody watching this will take a few moments and join the Patreon. So yeah, thank you, Rondo, for joining the Patreon. Truly appreciated. Remove the stone of shame, attach the stone of triumph. Yes, but sadly, the stone of triumph is heavier than the stone of shame. The bitter irony of that whole thing. Homer the Great, which is, by the way, a great episode. It's actually called, I always call it the Stonecutters episode. It's actually called the Homer the Great, which always made me laugh. But it is a great episode. Absolutely great episode. Yeah, I think honestly, people have asked me before what I think is the most accurate representation of Freemasonry in like media. Honestly, I would go with the Simpsons episode of Homer the Great. I know how it sounds, but ultimately, Freemasonry in many cases is a whole bunch of kind of silly guys just trying to have a night out for fun. And so often the things that we do are just kind of silly and goofy and fun. The best example I ever saw of the true heart of Freemasonry in Homer the Great was they're talking at dinner or whatever it is, and the guy in charge, voiced by Patrick Stewart, I forget what he says, but he says like, first we will do blah blah blah, and the guys all go like, and then he goes, and then we shall have ribs, and everybody cheers. And I've been in lodge meetings where literally somebody stands up and goes like, tonight for dinner we're having ribs, and everybody cheers having ribs. So it's just ultimately like there's such a silly and fun vibe to Freemasonry when it's done well, and you kind of get that in the Homer the Great episode. Honestly, it's funny, I have seen lodges where they actually adopted like as their lodge symbol the stonecutters symbol from Homer the Great. So that always did make me laugh a little bit. I've actually seen the Homer Simpson pin on some lodges. My lodge doesn't wear that regalia from Homer the Great. Well, there you go. I have seen though lodges wear it in the past, so very interestingly. And thank you as always, everybody. Who makes Steve Goon? Yeah, I don't know the lines to that. The only line I ever think of when I think of that song is "Who keeps the metric system down?" That's the only, or "Who rigs the Oscars every night?" We do. I can't remember any of the actual like. There's "Who keeps the metric system down?" I wonder if I can actually find the lyrics to that song because now I'm kind of curious. So it's "We Do," the Stonecutters song. Let's see if I can find the actual lyrics. Who controls the British crown? Who keeps the metric system down? We do, we do. Who keeps Atlantis off the maps? Who keeps the Martians under wraps? We do, we do. Who holds back the electric car? Who makes Steve Gutenberg a star? I don't even know who Steve Gutenberg is, to be honest. Who robs K-Fish of their sight? Who rigs the Oscars every night? Apparently, the songwriters Alf Clausen, John Schwartzwelder. I'm hoping that they were Freemasons because it'd be too perfect if they weren't. Although the electric car right now, I think Elon Musk is doing a pretty great job at holding back the electric car all on his own. I'm becoming interested in lodge names. I just noticed Shotokan Karate Lodge, LOL. I hope they practice karate there because that would be awesome. And I would support that 100%. Steve Guttenberg is from the movie Police Academy. But like, can you name a lodge after just anything? Well, I mean, if you're starting a new lodge, you have to get dispensation and you have to submit your name. And if you were to call it like, I don't know, Jewish People Are Evil Lodge or something, your Grand Lodge is probably not going to allow you to do that for obvious reasons. Because aside from the fact it's incorrect, it also is going to, bring negativity towards the craft. So you can't name a lodge just anything. The Grand Lodge is going to step in if you are an idiot about it. But certainly you could, if you had a famous Mason in your jurisdiction, you could name your lodge after him, I'm sure. It wouldn't be an issue. So it just kind of depends on what the Grand Lodge is willing to accept. Usually you find a lot of kind of similar names. Trinity comes up a lot, probably for religious reasons, although sometimes because 3 lodges join. Harmony comes up a lot because Harmony is a Masonic concept. Sometimes lodges are named after like workplaces. So Great Western, for example, named after Great Western Rail Line. Rose is a pretty common name because so I think that has a lot to do with Sub Rosa, but it can change. I know there's, for example, a Sci-Fi Lodge. Pretty sure wheat was the first. Wheat and barley date back approximately 10,500 years, which is actually the same time when they started to cultivate those crops, Courtney, that they started to build permanent stone structures. So that also saw an advancement in stone masonry, because if you are cultivating crops, you need to stay in one place to both plant and cultivate. And part of keeping in one place, you need to have permanent structures. Hey, Bong, welcome. I did not know you were here. Thank you so much for joining, Bong. Answer our 16 votes to the Are You Happy? Yes, no, unsure. So looks like the no's have got 4. The unsure has got 4. The no's have got, I think, 2. And the yeses have got 10. So I'm happy that most people are happy. Good to see you, Bong. Douglas Marks, good to see you as well. Please hit that like button if you've done so yet. It's great to have you join. In the U.S., the most popular lodge names historically include St. John's, Hiram, not surprised about Hiram, Washington, not surprised about Washington, Harmony, not surprised, and Union. I guess Union makes sense, maybe related to the Civil War even. Yes, I'm happy, living life to the fullest. Good for you. Keep up the good work, Douglas Marks. It is wonderful to have you join. Thank you so much for being here. Please, if you haven't done so yet, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We were talking about this issue of happiness because today is International Day of Happiness. And we talked about the ways in which we as Freemasons can potentially improve the happiness both of our members and the world at large. We also talked about the way that eating with others can improve people's happiness, and how in North America we are seeing a reduction in eating with others, and how Freemasonry can reverse that trend, hopefully. Then we talked a little bit about the 3 visit rule with restaurants, how they say if you visit a restaurant once and have a flawless experience, your likelihood of returning is 40%. If you visit that restaurant a second time and have a flawless experience, your likelihood of visiting is 42%. But if you visit a third time, have a flawless experience, your likelihood of returning now increases to above 70%. So they're talking about the reasons why restaurants need to advertise for 3 visits, not just a single visit. And in Freemasonry, we have already kind of this 3-visit structure in place when it comes to the 3 degrees, but how maybe we need to do more things in order to potentially ensure that those 3 visits counter or then evolve into regular engagement in Freemasonry. And then we talked about the spring equinox, or the Ostara festival, which is a pagan ritual related to the first day of spring. Doesn't feel like the first day of spring today. It feels rainy, wet, and gross here in Windsor, but we talked about that. So thank you so much, Douglas Bong, for being here. It's wonderful to have you all joining us. Thank you, everybody who's joined. Thank you for those who hit the subscribe button. We are growing in our subscribers, which is wonderful to see. Don't forget to check out all of our other social medias and be back here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, where we will be talking about the Euclid space mission, I do believe. Euclid being the father of geometry, also the name of a current European Space Agency mission. Thank you for being here, Bong. Truly appreciate it. And I'm hoping that you're one of the people who hit the yes to "Are you happy?" which is awesome. I hope that you are happy. I've got all my poll questions rocking out here. Do you eat Masonic refreshment before or after lodge meetings? 1 for before. So far, that's the only vote we got. Are you happy? 1 vote for no so far. I'm sorry to hear that. That was, again, on the Square and Compass community page. How many meals or snacks do you share with your Masonic brethren per month? 0, 33%. 1 to 4, 33%. Over 8. So 3 votes, all 3 answers there. So I'm hoping the person who said 0 can maybe increase the number and maybe get out more to see their brethren. I'm going to give it maybe another half hour or so, see if anybody else joins us. If there's anything they want to talk about. I hope everybody is doing well as always. And thank you, everybody who has been following us on social. We're really happy to see my social media has been growing, especially Twitter and X, which is great to see. I appreciate everybody joining. We're going to have a vote in Canada on April 28th. So there you go. Actually interesting, on Twitter or X, I put up the same post. Do Masonic refreshment before or after lodge meetings? 4 votes, all 4 after. So interesting. I wonder if there's a connection there somewhere as to why Twitter is voting all after, whereas everybody else is voting before. I am curious about that. Do you like smoothies? Just got back from having a coffee smoothie. I don't mind smoothies, Douglas. Yeah, and that's a good point, Bong. That's why I personally have become much more a fan of or supportive of having refreshments before lodge. Because if you have refreshments before lodge, you can always put some stuff away or save some stuff and have it after as well. If you just eat after, you're kind of screwing those who'd want to eat before. It makes sense to do both. So I've become more of a fan of having it both. But I do like smoothies. I don't love them or nothing, but I find, especially in the morning, if I don't have time for breakfast, a smoothie can make a great, great quick meal, and that can work really well. Very true. I'm for both. Bong is a smart man. By the way, as always, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing. And as always, what is it that you guys want to chat about? We're at that stage in the stream where it's just us hanging out and talking about whatever we want. Tomorrow, the topic for the day is going to be about the Euclid space mission. Euclid being the father of geometry, geometry being very important to Freemasonry. There's a reason why they would call it the Euclid space mission. So when I say they, I mean the European Space Agency. I put up a poll question on my Twitter, personal Twitter. Are you a nasty Canadian? Hashtag nasty Canadian. 1 vote so far, a hell yes. My biggest fear is having to piss during tiled floor meetings. Don't be nervous about that, Spirit. It's funny. A friend of mine says that's his biggest fear too. Honestly, if you have to go, I mean, I will speak for the Canadian Ontario approach. The way I would run it in my lodge is if I was worshipful master. If somebody has to go to the washroom, stand up, say, "Worshipful sir, may I depart without ceremony for an emergency?" Worshipful master should say yes, and then you depart without ceremony, which means you leave right away and you go pee. Or you can say, "Worshipful sir, I need to pee really badly." You can do it that way as well. I knew one guy who was super nervous about asking for permission to go to the washroom. And he would just sit there and be super uncomfortable. And I never understood why that was. You know, my biggest fear is eating a big bowl of spicy chili before a lodge meeting and then having to take a massive shit. That's my biggest concern by far. So exactly. As Bong says, we all have to do it. Now, if you find yourself being the worshipful master of the lodge and having to pee, that can become more difficult because then you're sitting there, you know. And of course, somebody will, you'll be just about to close the lodge and somebody will get up and have a lot to say. And then you're going to have to deal with that. So that will be super fun. So there's always going to be something to deal with. I know there's been times when somebody's had to go to the washroom like crazy. And they decide not to say anything because the meeting's almost over, only to have somebody come up and talk for like 20 minutes and you see them dying. So that can be kind of funny in its way. Stand would give the grand hailing sign of eminent urination. We should create that sign. I would support somebody. We should 100% create that sign. I believe many people probably would support or have been in experiences in their life where they would 100% support the creation of that sign. Ken, what do you think of the astronauts that recently returned? I have no idea. I feel like it'd be tough. Like, I don't know. I feel like if you're spending, 7 months floating, your muscles are probably not going to be used to gravity. So it might take you a little bit of time to get used to, once again, being on Earth's gravity. I remember reading a story once. It was like a sci-fi story about somebody who grew up on the moon where the gravity was much lighter, and coming to Earth, it was a lot more like they felt the gravity for the first time in their life of Earth and how challenging and hard it was to adapt to that. So I feel like it'd probably be pretty tough. Welcome, though. If you're just joining us, please take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Bong has a question. Go nuts. Yeah, ask away. We're just at the part of this stream where we're just kind of hanging out and chatting. I talked about my main subjects I wanted to hit earlier on today, Day of Happiness. So, Austera ceremony and the 3-visit rule to a restaurant. So now we're just at the day to just the hanging out. How do Freemasons interpret the concept of inner transformation through their degrees? So as you know, with everything, right? When we're talking about Freemasonry, right, and Freemason interpretation, the interpretation that each Freemason has as it relates to his degree is going to be different. So um, the way that I interpret and my inner transformation when it comes to Freemasonry, it's different than the way any other Freemason will. There may be some parallels, but it's going to depend on the personality of the individual. You know, but a good place to look would be Chuck Dunning and the idea of the initiatic principle or the idea. But for me, I honestly never viewed my degrees as being about an inner transformation. I mean, I viewed my degrees as, or a ritual even, or degrees as the purpose of which is to create bonds through shared experiences. So I felt after my degrees, not so much that I had been transformed in any way, but rather that I was now more closely connected to my Masonic brothers, both current, future, and past Masonic brothers, because we had been through the Masonic ritual. And because it was through that Masonic ritual, I felt closer connection to them. But that to me was the goal of the ritual. It was to create bonds through shared experiences, which is different than, let's say, kind of a more initiatic idea of it changes you internally, which you get from some brothers, Chuck Dunning, Randy Sanders. It's never really been my approach to it, if that makes any sense. So it made me feel it didn't, I never felt even as a concept the idea of an inner transformation, just a concept of being closer to my brothers. If Bong, that makes any sense. Courtney bringing up the theory of relativity. We can thank Einstein for that knowledge, but yes, you are correct. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good way to put it. Shared connection. It's an individual journey with shared connections. That's kind of how I've described actually Freemasonry in the past. What is the most important? God, that changes all the time. I just hope I can make the world a better place for the people, for at least the people I know, if not the world at large. I kind of hope I can make the world a better place, which is not always the easiest thing to do. A lot of times it feels like you're pushing against the ocean, but I think that would be the most important thing. Or at least I hope, even if I can't make the world a better place, I hope I always have the opportunity to fight to make the world a better place, which is a real fight, believe me. But I hope everybody who's joining us is doing well. Thank you, everybody who's taken part so far. It's been great. It's been great to see more people checking out our streams, voting on our community pages, hitting that subscribe button. I'll be back tomorrow talking about the Euclid Space Mission, but we still have, let's see, what do we got time-wise? Maybe I'll do this for another 20 minutes or so, just see if anybody else jumps in the chat with any questions. I've actually received some more followers, not just on my Twitter, which is great, but also on my Instagram accounts, which is awesome as well. So thank you so much for that. DTW, which is the Detroit Airport, says, welcome spring. Welcome spring indeed. I want to thank you, my family. You are welcome, Courtney. You are always welcome. It's wonderful to have you join us. So we very, very much appreciate you being here. I hope that you are doing well as always. I hope that you are happy, and maybe and potentially you can in some way bring some happiness to others as well. You certainly bring happiness to me when you join me on my stream. So thank you so much. What is our collections here? Just checking something. How does Freemasonry address criticism about being an elitist or exclusive organization? Well, so that depends on the location. Unfortunately, for better or worse, in some places it is a more exclusive or elitist organization. Sometimes purposefully, sometimes it's just the amount of money that they charge because maybe they have a very expensive building or whatever it is so great and so high that it kind of becomes exclusive by default, which is unfortunate. But in Canada, that certainly is not the case. If anything, I would say most cases our dues are too low. I think, the only way to really deal with that as a criticism is to hopefully just through demonstrating your conduct, right? Holding open houses, having Masons of different walks of life and backgrounds show to the public they're Masons. That's really all you can do, right? I mean, and sometimes the elitist or exclusive organization is really, it's a smokescreen, it's a pretend criticism. Really, the criticism is they believe in conspiracies around things like Freemasonry as a secret Jewish organization or something. And when they say it's exclusive or elitist, they're really referring to those conspiracy theories. But again, all you can do is kind of be open and upfront with who you are and what you believe. And the types of men that you have joining of all different faiths and of all different backgrounds and socioeconomic statuses. That's really all you can do. So, and I think, I've said kind of these examples in the past, and I still believe it, right? I can't convince you that. So, when it comes to professional wrestling, the quote I've often given, this professional wrestler once said, look, I can't convince you that I'm good, or I can't convince you that sorry, how do you put it? I can't convince you that professional wrestling is real, but I can convince you that I'm real. For me, it's like I can't convince you that Freemasonry is good, but I can hopefully convince you that I'm good. And if I can convince you that I'm good, then hopefully you will have some different views on Freemasonry. For whatever it's worth. I think that is kind of a good way to just deal with life altogether, right? An interesting, Courtney having the quote there, and he's absolutely right. I mean, that's actually an old professional wrestling thing too. The man makes the belt. The belt doesn't make the man. You can have your world championship belt on the worst wrestler in the world. It's not going to make him a better wrestler or a better man. By the same token, you can take, the person has to matter first, and then the accolades matter and the titles matter after. But first and foremost, it has to be about the people. But as always, thank you everybody who's joined. It's been great to see the stream doing well. We have a lot of people checking out some of our YouTube shorts as well, which is awesome. Please, as always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It's been great to see the growth. Been doing this for about 3 hours and 47 minutes, and it's gone great. But I may call this stream off today. I will be back tomorrow to talk about the Euclid space mission. Thank you guys so much for joining. Truly appreciated. Speaking of having to go pee, I have to go pee right now. Unless anybody jumps on with any last minute questions for the chat, we'll give it 2 more seconds. Thank you, Bong, for being here as always. Remember, today is International Day of Happiness, so I hope you do at least one thing to make you happy. Thank you guys so much. Tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, and I'll see you soon. Thank you so much, Bong, and I'll see you guys all hopefully tomorrow.